You know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
The Major Series has given us a plethora of great racing, and comes down to the final two crucial races before the playoffs. While the drivers will have to wait to race around Silverstone, we do have the iconic 87s as we get ready to watch the Holly Farms 400, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Good afternoon and evening, one and all. My name is Robert O'Brien, and joining me for the pre-race show today is Craig King. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. North Wilkesboro, recently revived to its best glory, has been a smash hit with the sim racers and real racers alike. We'll find out more about it with the GSRC track guide.
North Wilkesboro is a legend in the world of NASCAR, the very first NASCAR sanctioned track. Before falling into the clutches of NASCAR's expansion of the mid to late 90s, NASCAR Cup cars made 2 trips here a year. Petty, Allison, Waltrip, Earnhardt, Bonnet, Gordon. The list of winners here reads of NASCAR's legends. North Wilkesboro opened as a dirt track, having the same shape that it does to this day. In the late 50s, it was paved. This is when it became the track we know of today. This 5/8 mile oval is known for keeping a lot of speed on entry into those 14-degree bank corners. For a long part of NASCAR's early years, this was one of the fastest short tracks around, and with it, the unique characteristic, partly a result of lack of funds when they first cut the track. You go downhill on the front stretch and uphill on the back stretch. Also, the 2 corners aren't the same radius, but you might not notice that as much at speed. While North Wilkesboro is mostly known for Cup cars, other NASCAR divisions ran here over the years. Grand National had a few races. The trucks were here for 2 races before the speedway shut down. Modifieds also made some trips to North Wilkesboro. In the attempted restart in 2010, several late model and super late model series held races here, but it wasn't to be, and the speedway fell silent. Until now. Thanks to the efforts of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and iRacing, North Wilkesboro breathes life again in this virtual world, as it did in 1987. Now it's time for the Blue Ridge Mountains to hear the thunder again here on GSRC.
Now, Craig, I'm not the oval aficionado for this one. I think you're the one that's going to have a lot to say about North Wilkesboro, but good to see it back on the sim and, back to good stead, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Good evening and afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fantastic track to have. Brought thanks to Dale Earnhardt Jr. to get this track rescanned to preserved in iRacing, and it's given the resurrection, and no better to have these classic 87 NASCARs as well. This is one of those weird tracks, Rob. The 14-degree banking on the corners, when you're driving it, you can't really notice it. It looks like you've got a few lanes around here, and you do. But one thing that makes this track so unique is that elevation change. You're going downhill to start the lap, and then you're going uphill to finish the lap. So it does provide a unique, interesting situation. But being short track racing, robbing is racing around here today, Rob. I know you love a little bit of that as well when it comes to the racing. It's going to be tough. Do not expect it to be clean. I'm knocking my handle on my head because there's no wood around. I can't knock on wood at the moment because it's going to be one of those races that it may just be a little bit chaotic as the drivers at the start of the race just get themselves planted because track position will be vital.
Oh, absolutely. Especially given the fact that These are the older style cars. The 87s are a gem on the feather cap of the iRacing service. Now, leading into the final 2 races before the playoffs, we do have standings for the Pro Atlantic. Now, Dallas Pataska leads the way for them at the moment, with Ross Banfield 54 points behind. Austin Milwayne 75 points behind. Bit of a crunch there at the top 3. But hopefully we'll be seeing bumper-to-bumper racing, because none of them want to drop a single point, if one could hope that they don't. Of course, trailing down, Kevin Hill in 4th, 195 points down the line. Trevor Vavrosky there fighting for 4th, just 3 points behind him. Jeff Schmeier, 214 points behind the line, with Andrew Roaring, 245 points behind him. Gagaro Jr., 263 points behind Pataska. Nathan Medina, 285 points behind, and Verwayen sneaking his way in, and just only a couple of points in change behind him. And that is for the drivers, but obviously the teams do play an important part. Greg, how are they stacking?
Yeah, well, you saw a lot of Evolved SimSport drivers on at that board, and that is the reason why they are currently dominating the championship. I can't do the maths at the top of my head, but they might be able to clinch the championship today from Grizzly TFR. Of course, then you've got the satellite drivers just there, mainly Dallas Pataska as well, just taking charge for the team there with over the drivers. So do look out around there. The back of the field, it is a little bit low, but there are still drivers just trying to pick up points at the end of the season for their team. Could be all important for those final podium spots once Evolved SimSports do change and challenge for that title. There are other divisions which later on the race hopefully will be able to give you some updates as well on the silver and bronze, but our eyes, of course, Rob, are on the top challenge here. Can Dallas Pataska hold off Ross Banfield?
I'd imagine so. I mean, there's nothing to say that he couldn't, but for the race details, the all-important bit for today's race. Now, Craig, would you remind me, what does 400 in the Holly, the Hollywood 400 or the Holly Farms 400 mean? Is it 400 laps or is it 400 miles?
This is 400 laps. Sometimes they go distance. Sometimes it is in terms of kilometers or miles, in America. And sometimes it is laps. This is 400 laps, as you can see here, with those 1987 NASCARs. And there is a new one on the block this season. 7 tire sets. That is very important. I'm sure the guys will be bringing you into that, and we're keeping our eyes on that. 2 tire changes may not be needed around here today, because these tires will be eaten up by these cars, especially with the massive amount of steering you have to do in these gigantic steering wheels they've got in the car. So that's going to be very crucial. Of course, it is open setup, so they will try to do what they can to have setups to help them turn the car and also preserve those tires on this track. It is a little bit lukewarm out there as well today. 40x incident limit, and of course the spare car. But again, 7 tires, Rob. That is 7 tires in total. That's a tire set, not 7 tires. Be an odd number to have 7 tires. It is going to be crucial when they pick their opportunity to take those tires.
I'd imagine that if you had only 7 tires, there'd be some very serious concerns as to which tire will be the sacrifice tire and explode on the way past 200 laps. Of course, it goes without saying. Don't push too hard. You have 400 laps to do things. 400 laps to get things right, get that position moved up, and then just ever so gently getting into it. Now, we're coming into it, Craig. What's your advice for the boys that are going to be calling lap by lap?
Keep your eyes open and keep your eyes clear and keep it safe. Quick shout out as well, of course, to the Majors Garage, the free Baseline Plus setup, so you can get any help from the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome affordable monthly subscription telemetry coaching, and just click simply on our link for more information. Use our discount code MAJOR GSRC for 10% off, Rob. And a quick shout out as well to the charity, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Talking is the first steps to preventing suicide. And you can make a real difference by learning the warning signs and risk factors. You can have real conversations with someone that cares about you and you care about, and sharing resources and creative ways to help talk away the dark. Find out more of the information there in the description below.
And of course, be sure to help those that bring everything together. The magic happens here. So talk, be always on the up and up, and we'd be more than happy to help you as the charities in listing. Now, I do have 3 musketeers. They're not the same name. Joe, Joey, and Ushin, and I think they're ready to get going, aren't you, boys?
We are indeed, and we have the cars gridded up and ready to go for tonight. So let's go through our starting grid. Welcome, I'm Joe Peak here with Ossian and Joey behind the scenes as Dallas Pataska will actually start on the pole for this one. It'll be David Gagaro Jr. who will be starting next to him on that front row. Ross Banfield will begin in the 3rd place, and Nathan Medina will start from 4th, followed by Kevin Hill in 5th position. Joseph Homan will be P6, and David Baker in 7th. Hakan Schutt will be in the 8th spot, Travis Henderson P9, and Kenneth Reeder rounds out your top 10. Joey?
Then we have Carl Burke in 11th. Trevor Vavrovsky will be lined up next to him in 12th on row number 6. Stephen Vervayan in 13th. And we have Matt Gelder lined up 14th. Jeff Cardamome with a top 15 qualifying effort. Lynn Kinchlow is going to be lined up alongside him in 16th. Jason Willott in 17th. Patrick Kopp 18th. And on row number 10, we have Robert Covey and Tom Dreiling.
And then in 11th row, we have Stefan Grabowski starting alongside Scott Kukas. In 12th row, Michael Lightley and Kurt Van Aken. Rob Courtney and Michael Hogg will be starting in row number 13, and Jacob Madison alongside Wolf Dietrich Hotho in row number 14.
So 28 cars out here. Not quite a full NASCAR-style field, but we heard Craig talking about the warmer temperatures, 91 Fahrenheit. Currently, it is the middle of the day, so it's probably only going to increase as it goes on. Big question mark is probably going to be, what will the cautions look like? Is it going to be a lot of green flag racing? Or will this short track slow things down to a crawl? Looks like the pace car getting ready to peel off with Pataska. Given control of the field once that pace car is in. Should be quick between that and the wave of the green. And in fact, there it is right there. Green flag is out. Dallas leads them downhill into turn 1 at this classic 1987 track as Gagaro Jr. is going to try and slot into second ahead of Banfield. He'll do that successfully, Joey.
Yeah, Gargaro Jr. giving chase to Pataska down the back straightaway and already diving off into 3 and 4. You really get a chance to see how small this North Wilkesboro circuit is, and I'm seeing even 3 wide coming up out of 4 to end the first lap.
Looking good so far. Drivers have gotten pretty single file at the front of the field. Still see some battling down towards the back of the field, but it all looks pretty sorted out to me, Ozzy. I only saw a little bit of 3 wide in there at the start.
Yeah, it was a relatively clean start. Every driver knows that you can't really win this race, or any race, as a matter of fact, in the first lap. And you also want to take some care of the tires. Even if it's not a super tire critical track, it is still something they want to take care of here in the early going, get themselves in the groove. It is a surprisingly difficult place to race in, so I don't want to really risk it.
Well, and you said the magic word, Ozzy, Joey's favorite topic, the tires here. These are old tires, the way that they were constructed back in '87, Joey. What do you think that's going to mean for trying to preserve them?
Oh, it's my favorite, Joe.
Exactly.
It's just, you have to take care of them, and we're already seeing everybody go down to the low side of the racetrack. I think that's what we're going to see. Everybody migrate to the bottom of the racetrack, the shortest distance around. I have a feeling that if you're going up the racetrack, you're sliding more on those older tires. You're scraping that rubber off. You're using the tire life instead of preserving the tire life. So I'm curious to see, does everybody stay on the bottom of the racetrack? Does that line migrate up as we have our first yellow flag of the day?
I see Vervayan involved in it, trying to figure out who else maybe could have started. We got a car in its lid. Stephen Vervayan, in fact, who I just mentioned. They do have that spare car that Craig mentioned, but it's not the way that you want to kick things off here. In fact, I think he may have had a little bit of help It looks like maybe contact with Matt Gelder. We'll see if we can pull the replay up here, Joey.
It's, oval racing and short track oval racing at that. I'm sure that this isn't the last big incident we're going to see, but yeah, a little bit unfortunate. I think this was heading off down into turn number 1 on lap 6 there. So it wasn't, I don't think, malicious, but there was heavy head-on impact with the number 8. And then while he was sitting on the racetrack, Joe, he just got piled into.
Yeah, I think Madison and Wolf Dietrich Otto both caught him. Here's the initial incident. If we stay with it, we'll see. I mean, that was big damage right there, but this is what probably did him in completely as it turns him over.
And going into turn 1, I just think it was a little bit of confusion. I think that Steven Vervine was going more for the middle of the racetrack, and I believe it was the 69 that was on the outside of him was trying to go more towards the lower side of the racetrack. I think we're going to see that confusion play out a lot.
Now, things won't be completely to the 87 rules since they have no way to race to the line like they did back then. The drivers will have the lucky dog on in this series, and they will also start double file on the restart. So watch for that to be slightly different, although they tried to go as period specific as they could on the rules within iRacing's abilities as it is. The interesting thing to me, Ozzy, is that Gagaro Jr. not only got into the second place pretty quickly, but he was just sticking right to the back of Pataska. It looks like the pace is actually still pretty good for the 42.
Yeah, it is. I wonder if Pataska is trying to maybe pace his stint a little bit. You saw them not taking it to the pit lane just yet, and of course it would be a bit too early to do so, but it's going to be interesting to follow what Gargaro Jr. will be able to do here in this next stint, and how is his long stint pace versus Pataska. Someone else I'm going to be interested about watching is the Ross Banfield, the 777 car, who would be right there behind the leaders as they are ready to get go once again.
Here we go. Green flag is out immediately for Dallas Pataska. Will Gagaro Jr. be able to slam the door shut? It looks like he's got an opening, and indeed, he heads down to the bottom of the racetrack. Look at Ross Banfield, though. He's dealing with the number 2 up on his high side, Nathan Medina. Nathan's going to be the one to slot into third.
Really charges it down into turn number 3 to clear that 777, hold on to the third place position, and look at this, a little bit further back, 2 wide, almost 3 wide, coming up out of turn number 4. We saw everybody migrate to the bottom of the racetrack. Well, guess what? In these restarts, sometimes you're forced to run up top.
As a few of the drivers towards the back are having to do so. And you can see drifting up high. Doesn't seem to be a lot of grip off that bottom line for right now. 2 by 2 towards the back of the field, still trying to sort this one out. And this is only a half-mile track as well, Ozzy. Once they do get single file, it's not going to be long before they catch the tail of that.
Yeah, exactly. And we have 26 cars here in this field, so it's going to be a long stretch going up this half-a-mile circuit, and once we get to the lapped cars, it's going to be difficult to navigate because this is more or less a single-line circuit. It's not like bigger NASCAR circuits where you have those multiple lines, multiple grooves that are going to start forming. No, it's a single line. You pretty much stick it to the inside and try to hold it as close to the inside as possible. So you would hope, in a way you would hope that the lapped cars are going to give way and stick to the outside, as seems to be the standard. Oh, and we have another yellow flag. So
Grabowski.
Somebody didn't stick to the line.
No, I think he got some help on this one too, and it's similar to what we saw before. It's the 929 car with Cardamone, I think, just shoving him around. I saw him out of turn 4 as it happened and just tipped the back of him. Unfortunately for Wolf Dietrich Otto and Stephen Vervine, I think they both did not take their free repair and had to wait to get back out on track. So that's put them many laps down. They'll need these cautions for the lucky dog, Joey.
And they will need the cautions. Remember, only 7 tire sets available for everybody, so it'll be curious to see if anybody comes down and takes early tires and what it's going to play out for. And here, watch the 314. Bonk! Just pops the 929. Doesn't seem like very heavy contact, but it was enough to turn him around coming out of turn 4. And talking about that over rotation, those easy, lazy spins, in practice, I saw that be a habit out here in a lot of these different cars. So you're going to have to watch out for it. My magic word, old tires, low grip racetrack, and an easy to spin car. You got to be careful.
Yeah, and I mean, you described it as not heavy contact, but these are heavy cars. I feel like momentum, Joey, going to be such a big thing in these things.
I think anytime you carry, what is it, about 3,500 pounds, almost 4,000 pounds into another object, you're right. It's not going to be light contact by any means. That's a lot of momentum, a lot of inertia being transferred.
And there you see one of our lucky dogs for this one. That's Jacob Madison, who's getting waved on around. So no pit stops yet. We're only 18 laps in, and we've already had 2 cautions. So the drivers shouldn't have put too much in it, and especially with the limited tire sets. We're not anticipating them trying to blow through them all that quickly. In fact, I wonder, Ozzy, if that is going to be a genuine strategy, is take some pain early in the race if you have to fall back, if you can last to the end and have some fresh tires in case we do get yellows.
Oh, absolutely. When we were doing a Finnish League race here, back when North Wilkesboro came out, we had a summer league with the 87 cars, and I was actually able to win that race. It's still the only race in North Wilkesboro we've done. I was able to win that race by essentially the virtue of being the only one of the very few ones who still had a fresh tire set left for the last caution. And because there were some lapped cars already, I was pretty close to the front and was just able to essentially run to the lead and run it to the end. And I'll see some people definitely going for that strategy today, where they have tire sets left near the end. They're able to make it to the pit lane at the right time, put in some fresh rubber in, and then just essentially run them down and take it to the flag.
All right, they've gone double file, so we're going to get restarted on lap 21. Who will be the first to blink to get that fresh rubber and try and maybe use a new set? I wonder if everybody's going to try and run the tank dry, especially if we keep getting this many cautions here, which will be a while because they have a decent-sized tank in these cars, even though they weren't nearly as fuel efficient back then as they are now. Here we go. 4 different makes of 87 Cup cars take the green here at North Wilkesboro. And once again, Pataska takes the lead, but this time Nathan Medina gets underneath Gargaro Jr., trying to take that second place away, Joey.
Remember, and it was Medina that was sneaking underneath Ross Banfield that last time, but it is Gargaro Jr. that can hold on to that second place. And Banfield actually gives a shove to that Ross Gargaro Jr. machine there.
Thankfully, nobody gets turned around this time as we look a little farther back to the battle for 8th position. Holman trying to hold off Reeder, who just flies off the corner and is going to be able to take him around the outside down into turn 3. In fact, he's got a lot of speed on his teammate of David Baker, but he has to slot in behind him as well. Still a battle between Schutt and Holman back there for 9th.
Side by side coming off of turn number 2. It stays really busy, and we were talking about lap traffic earlier. They start running into it immediately, probably within 15 or 20 laps, and look at what happens when you do get there. It is so busy around this place.
Holman just dropping backwards so quickly. He's already to 11th. Is almost 3 wide, little back there. Some beating and banging between the 26 of Dreiling and the 44 of Kinchlow. But they're going to be able to get away with it as we watch the pair of them take it out of turn 4 and plunge down the hill again.
See the 44 drift back up kind of in the racing line. We're seeing 2 definite grooves here. The bottom lane plus kind of about middle, maybe 2/3 of the way up the racetrack, and they're actually providing about equal traction. It's not like the high lane provides you the momentum around the top side or the low lane is the shorter distance. They seem pretty equal right now.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, Ozzy. I wonder if because we've had so much side-by-side racing, is it just laying down rubber early? I didn't think the high side would come in this quick.
Well, I think a lot of people are experimenting with it right now and finding that there is indeed quite a lot of grip down up there, and that's realistic. That's what we've seen on this track before. A lot of course, we got 25, 26 cars putting in rubber on the low side, so it's gonna come in play pretty early on. And the drivers who are brave enough to go there early can find significant benefit. I think another reason is that running the low side is using a lot of your tire. You're turning in at a tighter radius. And maybe after some 28 laps of racing, these guys, almost 30 laps of racing, these guys just want to essentially ease their tires a little bit by running the more, the wider line effectively, and the yellow flag is out.
Yeah, it looks like Robert Covey and Wolf Dietrich Hotto involved in that one. Oh, and also another car I see turned around. That is Scott Kukas. Not sure if that was a part of it or if it was a completely separate incident. We'll see if we can pull it up. I do see, I think the 64 may have started it. Rob Courtney turning around guys like Covey, Joey, but nose to tail contact. I'm seeing that as a theme already in our first 3 cautions.
And it's the lazy spins. You mentioned they're heavy cars, so when you do make that contact, it transfers all of that energy. And with the old tires we talked about earlier, you're already on the limit. You get even more greedy, and just around they come. We're going to get a look at this replay. And watch the number 64 here. He's going to be charging up through the middle, and I honestly think he just blows the turn 1 brake marker a little bit, gets into the back of the 72, and then you see the 32 have nowhere to go. As Wolf Dietrich Hotto just kind of an innocent victim in it all.
So they'll get turned back around. I guess the nice thing, at least for the drivers, I don't know about for us, Joey, is that it's a short track, and that usually means lower speed. So the accidents generally are not going to take people out.
No, unless you were Steven Vervine earlier, ending up on his lid, which was pretty rare. You're right, though. The speeds are a little bit lower. I think the big accidents are going to be cars that are going to be hooked into the corner on that confusion on which lane you're taking going into a corner, which honestly, that's what kicked off that Steven Vervine incident all to begin with.
Well, they're now getting stacked up behind the pace car. Pataska still leads Gagaro Jr. That's the way it's been for much of this race. But Nathan Medina is now in third ahead of Ross Banfield. Almost took that second away on that last restart. Kind of curious, Joey, if he learned anything and if maybe he's got a new trick up his sleeve.
Well, if he does, he certainly has another opportunity to play it right here. Getting a lot of restarts here early on. And I think as a driver, knowing that you got 400 laps, this is not the last restart you're going to have. So if you had something that worked, maybe try it again. Does it work again? Okay, that's great. Let's put it in my back pocket. Next restart, let's try something else new. It's just time to start expanding that notebook.
All right. I think we're going to be going double file this time because now they are letting by the lapped car of Scott Kukas. So he will actually return to the lead lap. And the lucky dog serves its purpose there. So now that we'll have 26 cars back on the lead lap, poor for Vian and Dietrich Hotto are 6 laps and 8 laps down respectively. So they need a lot of cautions to get back into this one. But it looks like they are ready to go. Double file up at the front. As we've seen, there's no time to try and play the games with the restart because the green flag is out immediately. And Dallas Pataska flies down towards turn 1. This time, it looks like Gagaro Jr. is going to send it deep to try and cover off a move from the 2, and he's able to keep second much more easily. But look at Ross Banfield in the 777. He is not happy with the 2 taking his spot away.
Remember, we've been seeing this top side of the racetrack bring in a little bit more speed. Isn't able to challenge Nathan Medina for that 3rd place position, but that's the furthest and the farthest up in terms of track position we've seen that top lane work. And now Travis Henderson in that silver and blue number 24, he's going to migrate up the racetrack just a little bit, try to search for some of that grip.
Watching Kevin Hill here in 6th position in that number 52. One of the Chevy Monte Carlos. I mentioned 4 different makes of cars you can choose from. Now they are all equal in iRacing. There's no difference between them, so you can't gain any advantage that way. You got problems in the back, slow cars. There's no yellow. I'm not sure what happened to Courtney here.
Yeah, I think Courtney was involved. I think Carl Burke in the 503 was involved. I'm really impressed that this was not a yellow flag. The 26th and the 503 definitely came in contact here in turn number 1, but we stay green flag.
No cars got turned around enough that it triggered that yellow. For iRacing, it is whether or not the car is usually perpendicular enough with cars coming towards it on the track, that triggers the yellow, and everybody stayed straight enough or we're just got completely off the racing line. So we carry on now here on lap 38. Look at the 33, though, starting to hassle the car in front of him.
And also the 44, this is Lynn Kinchlow that's side by side right in front of him. So, oh, and now we've got Tom Dreiling around. That's the number 26 car, but we stay green flag. If he gets pointed the right direction, we're going to stay green.
He's going to lose a lap, though. There goes the leaders on by as he gets rolling once again. Now, if you do go a lap down in a half-mile track, Ozzy, it's not a big concern, although Tom is actually coming into pit lane.
Yeah, so if you go lap down, you can effectively get it back during the caution cycles at some point. You can also fight your way to the lead, essentially lead of the queue, which is going to give you the lap back on the next caution. So it is something which will happen throughout the course of this race. It's going to happen to the back markers. It's going to happen to drivers to about 15, 20th place down, maybe even more if this stays green for long enough. And especially during the pit stop cycle, it can happen very easily. So it's more normal than it is on a larger circuit. Now, something I do want to point out, we've been talking about these being old cars. I know Joey would like to talk our ears off about the old tires as well. These are, of course, some good old cross-ply tires that these cars are having. But take a look at how these cars are handling, especially now towards the later portion of this stint, and why the drivers are taking it to the outside so readily. These drivers really have to wrestle these things. That's a big steering wheel, and they have to wrestle these things. Usually with more modern oval machinery, you're still used to the cars being heavy. You still have to wrestle them somewhat, but it's surprisingly smooth in terms of steering wheel input. You mostly steer them by the pedals, by the throttle, you lift off early, and you're steady with your inputs. That's going to keep your tires in their best balance. But with these cars, one of the things I was surprised about that suited me personally, driving style-wise, and a lot of people I know that are experienced oval racers were surprised about, was the amount of steering wheel input you need to put into those corners. You really need to wrangle it in there to make it turn.
Yeah, you're not lying about them being wide steering wheels. We'll see when we get some onboards later on. The thing that strikes me as curious is we're watching Ross Banfield continue to try and see if he can get Medina to give that third place up, Joey. It seems like Pataska has decided to play the hare here, the rabbit, despite us saying that, drivers want to try and take care of their stuff.
It's interesting. You always have different mindsets of different drivers. Sometimes they want to get out there and lead the race, and they say, you know what, my pace is the pace that's right, and everybody else has to keep up with it. And that always works until somebody finally goes and catches them. But I think it's all up to the driver. Remember, this is 400 laps. We're going to see another yellow. It's time to take your testing opportunities, and maybe that means go run away with it as hard as you can right now, see when it does fall off, and know when that plateau hits for later.
It seemed like maybe there's a bit of a plateau for the two here because the 777 wants to get by. He's all over that back bumper. Look at him drift up the track, trying to stay low. Ross Banfield couldn't quite get himself inside of Nathan Medina, but I think it's starting to look like a matter of when.
I think that Medina is not only holding up the 777, but look at all of the cars lined up right behind. So maybe once the floodgates open, if Ross Banfield can open that door just a little bit, I'm sure the 24, Travis Henderson, Kevin Hill, they're all looking, and here goes that opportunity. Banfield officially to the inside in 3.
And looks like the pass going to be done. Nope, not quite. 2 still holding on, but I think that'll be difficult around the high side here, especially the exits we've been seeing Banfield get off of turn 2, and now he is finally there. Lap traffic in front of him. Scott Kukas trying to stay up to the high side as we now look back through the rear windscreen of Ross Banfield.
See that number 24? That's Travis Henderson. He's kind of migrated up. He's not really using the bottom side of the racetrack. He's using that second lane, and you see Nathan Medina actually slide up the racetrack as well. I think that Medina is more sliding up the racetrack. I think Henderson is actually using that second lane.
Way up to the high side there for Kukas, too. Like I said, just trying to make sure and stay off of the racing line to let these drivers through. He's currently down in 25th, probably waiting, hoping to get himself a lucky dog as he is the highest car a lap down. as things stay pretty tight there, but Medina is suffering the consequences of using up his stuff early. Henderson already passed him. Now his teammate Kevin Hill in the Evolve Sim Sport car trying to poke underneath.
And I think you nailed it. He used his stuff up early. Remember, I was commenting he's got like these little moments of speed, especially on the restart, where he can just kind of make up sorts of ground, but that also comes at a price. You're using up the tires.
Oh man, he's dropping like a rock now. Kenneth Reeder also going by. Kenneth up 4 positions. Henderson also up 5. So a few of these drivers definitely have managed to find their pace. Ooh, chopping down. The 2 had very little space between himself and Vrosky, it looked like there. But he felt confident that he could get to the apex first. Let's see if he does the same here. He'll actually defend this time. And Vrosky says, that's okay. I've got the outside line. And wow. The 2 is just dead in the water.
Definitely used his stuff up, and I was jumping around looking at various different cars because Ozzy brought up a good point. You know, are you using the stuff up on the bottom or are you using it up on the top? But between the setups, you watch somebody like Dallas Pataska out front, and the amount of steering angle he actually has to turn the steering wheel, far less than some of these cars way out in the back of the field. They're using that steering wheel way more, which means you're using those front tires way more. It'll be interesting to see how the different setups play out over the course of a long green flag run.
Dina still suffering. There goes David Baker now, easing his way past him. Next up, going to be Hukan Schotz there in the 101 as we got another yellow this time. Trying to see if I can figure out who it is. And Michael Hogg looks to be the culprit in the 744 machine. His Buick LeSabre slow on the front stretch, although I don't think it started with him. I do see also the 32 involved for a second time. There he is.
Yeah, there's that 32 that's missing kind of the entire front clip. And you're right, Joe, this happened up out of turn number 4. And I think that Wolf Dietrich Hoto actually got some help from David Gargaro Jr., our overall leader right now.
Okay, this is strange. Pataska's come into pit, but almost nobody else has. Okay, there we go. We got a few in. I was curious if he entered into a closed pit lane or something there, but he's going to be followed by Medina. No shock there, along with Schutz in the 101. Looks like Henderson also going to be pitting this time, and Kurt Van Aken taking some fresh tires. But a split strategy here, Ozzy, on pit lane for this caution.
I'm really surprised that everybody's not into the pit lane right now. It looks like I would definitely come into pit. We've run almost 60 laps, as you can see what happened there, and just Wolf Dietrich getting punted around and not holding the brake, sadly, and that's what caught Michael Hogg out. You're supposed to always hold your brake pedal down when you're spinning like that. He didn't this time and gonna slide down the banking and into another car, and that's not optimal at all. You can see also Vavrowski into the pit lane. But yeah, Gargaro Jr. stayed out, Kevin Hill stayed out, Lynn Kinchlow stayed out. Granted, Lynn Kinchlow has pitted 29 laps ago, so he is already on his second set of tires, but that is gonna relegate Dallas Pataska to around the 10th position as it's standing right now. So that's gonna be 9 cars on older tires he's gonna have to overtake, and that is gonna take some tire life out of him. But the difference between new tires and old tires, it is around 1 second per lap, as it's been so far. Fastest laps around 19.8 mark, whereas the previous fast laps for these guys, 20.9, 21.0. So it is around a 1 second advantage per lap he will have, but whether he will be able to use that advantage is a whole other matter, Joe.
I can't believe we had missed Kinchlow coming into pit, and it has worked out well getting him the track position, and he's going to have a little bit better tires than those around him. But now we've got mixed up cars on this latest restart. So everybody's going to have to be on their toes, Joey, because, I mean, you have to make sure that if somebody else spins the tires in front of you, you don't run into them, or worse, they don't spin out in front of you.
Well, you mentioned the 44. He's on 30-lap old tires, 60-lap old tires starting, and then we have freshies that are back there in 9th.
There's the green flag. Not seeing any spinning cars, although someone looks very slow in the background. Looks like we're going to be able to at least make it down into turn 1. Gargaro Jr. finally has the clear air ahead of him. Can he use this to run away? Kevin Hill behind him. Lynn Kinchlow back into the 3rd spot that he had wanted for so long. Still a little bit of 3 wide in the mid-pack as those with the fresher tires are charging through.
I will say that David Gargaro Jr. will be able to run away for probably about a handful of laps, maybe 10 at most, because Dallas Pataska as well as Ross Banfield are just flying through the field. They made it 3 wide on the restart on the exit of 2 just passing cars.
Yeah, Pataska is now blitzing up into 5th. He's sizing up Jeff Cardamone as his next victim. Can he reach the top? No, because we're going to get a yellow before we get there.
Huge accident, and the number 2 is involved in this one. Remember, Nathan Medina was way up at the front of this field, was involved with Hawk and Schote down there in turn number 1. That's really what kicked all of this off, but that was one of our front runners.
Oh, man. Yeah, Nathan has seen his race go from bad to worse. There's the contact. And, I mean, they're perpendicular, 2 wide. There was no place to go for everybody.
No, and if I'm putting my race control hat on it, I think the number 2 chopped down to the low side here. I think that Hawk and Schote was clearly to the inside and unfortunately maybe got a wrong call from a spotter.
Patrick Kopp was the one that you saw rolling over and winding up upside down briefly before the car righted itself. Probably going to see a few of those spare cars taken out here. In fact, Vervian's already used his. Michael Hogg has as well. Tom Dreiling has taken his, but that means they can continue racing, but if they have another big accident, it's going to be costly, as you see a few of them taking service. And most of the other drivers that did not pit last time have come in, but Cardamone has not, and strangely, Patrick Kopp has stayed out.
Now, I want to talk with Ozzy because he's usually, kind of our strategist behind the scenes here. We don't know how far they can run on a green flag, but do we have an estimate maybe?
Around 75 laps.
Okay, so they got to be coming up to the end of their tank. If they were running green flag, they can probably stretch it probably in about another 15 or so, but I'm with you, Ozzy. I think that lap 60 was a beautiful time to come in.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Now, of course, I used the Stetson method in pulling that number, but I seem to recall it being around 75 laps, 80 laps at most, and somebody's going to scream at me soon for being wrong, but let's just go with it. Let's just roll with it and see what happens there. But you're right, a lot of the drivers pitted. In fact, the only 2 drivers who haven't yet pitted in this race are in 2nd place, number 314, Jeff Cardamone, and in 8th place, you already mentioned, number 13, Patrick Kopp, who was also involved in that incident. So they have 69 laps on their stint, which is nice.
Patrick Kopp staying out, though. I mean, if that car is still driving straight, I'll be amazed. I guess the lid doesn't have to do with the steering as much, Joey, but he literally did a barrel roll.
Yeah, and he's having a little bit of an intermittent internet issue as well. And you were talking about the fast repairs. I like to think of them like a lifeline. If you use it early, it's not there for you later. So maybe he's seen the trend of yellows and maybe he's just kind of hanging on to it for now.
Pataska going to be restarting in 3rd. Kinchlow is from the pole, and Cardamone there in 2nd. 3 different ages of tires on our first 3 for this restart. My bet's on Pataska, though. I don't think Kinchlow's going to have enough to be able to hold him back. Let's see if we get far enough down the road for him to try and do it as the green flag is out. And look at that. He outruns Cardamone easily down into the first corner. The 44 directly in front of him. What's he got to try and attack? Oh, he actually has to check up, and he tips the 44 down to the bottom of the track. 77 diving in there as well. We're going to go 3 wide, Joey.
Oh, my goodness. And Kinchlow's going to go and make more door-to-door contact with Pataska. I'm incredibly surprised that Kinchlow didn't get turned around on the back straightaway. It's the 777 of Ross Banfield taking advantage of those old tires now.
Oof, yeah, Kinch a little bit vocal on the radio. No wonder after that restart, he got shoved around as behind him. Oh, more 3 wide attempts. Car getting loose down to the inside. That's Travis Henderson.
I mentioned these cars get really lazy when they have those yaw angles. A good save from the 24, but unfortunately the 44 is now just a sitting duck. Everybody behind him is on fresher tires.
Flying up around 3 and 4 here, watching off the back of Kinchlow. And down to the inside, the 24 of Henderson still looking at that 3 wide maneuver. I think he might be able to get it. No, doesn't quite have enough. In fact, loses a lot of speed to his teammate Pavrovsky on the high side.
I think if you're in the position of the 24, you just got to stay patient. You're trying to battle with Lynn Kinchlow. He's on old tires. Just realize you do have better speed. You don't need to force. The issue right here is the 10 of Pavrovsky actually almost gets into the back of Kinchlow. He's kind of boxed in.
No place to go at this stage, and the 52 is going to take advantage of it. Because now we get another yellow. Oh, and another big wreck. Cars piling up in 3 and 4 with someone on their side. It seems these cars very easy to roll.
And this kicked off with the 33 and the 43. That's Kurt Van Aken. And then also the 43 car of Mike Golightly heading off into turn 3. And just as we've seen several times before, Joe, once that initial accident kicks off, there's not really much room to go if you're behind it.
Yeah, it seems like as wide as this track is, it's proving difficult to try and avoid the action. And did I hear that Patrick Kopp stayed out again?
Yep.
Unbelievable. Trying to stretch those tires like he actually has to pay for them, which thankfully you do not in the virtual world. But at this point,
can you imagine that?
Yeah. At this point, I feel like I feel like you might as well. Yes, he's going to be sent to the back of the pack, but he's going to feel like a superhero out there on that fresh rubber, as we saw somebody get some pit stop service. That was Kurt Van Aken, who's back out and a lap down. We actually only have 16 cars still on the lead lap, it looks like, Joey.
Well, I'm going to take a quote out of an old movie. It might just be that Patrick Kopp's crew chief is eating ice cream right now. So, you know, they could be busy down there on pit road. So maybe he can't come in and get those tires yet. But I agree, guys, with 78 laps on the tires, Patrick Kopp is going to be a sitting duck. To set the field for everybody else, the majority of the top 10 is on relatively even stuff. Dallas Pataska, our leader, is actually on the oldest of the tires.
Well, I'm gonna just chime in with this one here, because I feel like crew chief eating ice cream would be someone we have also seen in NASCAR world, and he'd be like, I mean, you'd be fine with the tires. They can still last for a couple more laps longer. And a little bit, I'm busy.
Yeah, different ice cream lover, I think, out there. As the cars are getting stacked up, and we're going to take a look at the replay. So starting with Robert Covey, it looks like. Oh, no, starts in front of him, and Robert's got no place to go, and they pile in behind him. Once again, another car getting tipped up on his side. Thankfully, eventually winds up on the rubber.
That's what I was talking about. It's just a two-car incident, and then when they get turned kind of perpendicular, everybody behind has nowhere to go, but looks like we got the lights out for another restart.
Pataska over Banfield with Gagaro Jr. in third. Green flag is out, off like a shot there for Dallas Pataska. 777 has no answer for him. In fact, immediately to the bottom there to see if he could find an opening. Nothing doing. Down through 1 and 2, still side by side for third. Reeder looking like he struggles a little bit as the tires spin up off the corner. He hangs tight around the high side of Gagaro Jr. We got a big spin behind them, and yet more cars coming together. Oh my goodness. This has been just a mess lately through turns 3 and 4.
And I believe this one, Matt Gelder in the number 69 cars where this all kicks off. And there was no contact here. I think that Gelder just got too hot into turn number 3. And just like the last one, when they start spinning, nowhere to go.
Yeah, poor David Baker was just kind of seeing a car spinning in front of him going, oh no, and actually he sneaks through. So we might want a replay from his perspective here to see how he managed that one. But Tom Dreiling, I'm guessing, also involved in this, considering he's 2 laps down now at this stage. This is starting to look a lot more like a race of attrition.
I think we're going to start losing some cars sooner than later just because of people using the fast repair getting collected into these wrecks. And I think that it's part of racing. It's part of short track racing, especially in these old cars on an old bumpy surface. It's not what we're used to, and we're just seeing that a little bit.
Absolutely. This is an interesting one because this is the surface from, I believe it was from 2020 when they scanned it, actually. And the surroundings are all from 1987, but that 2020 surface had not been resurfaced for quite some time. So it's probably pretty close still to the 1987 way that it was, with all the bumps and not being absolutely pristine out there. So who is going to be pitting in this time, if anybody? Here we go. Let's take a look at the replay with Gelder down to the inside. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that car was going almost immediately.
And then it's just everybody piles in. They see the tire smoke. They get loose themselves, and just chaos ensues. But yeah, it was just a little bit too much entry speed going into turn number 3. Maybe the tires weren't warmed up on the restart. Whatever it was, just a little bit too far over the limit.
Oh, boy. So we get slowed up, and we are currently 85 laps into this now. So we're just about hitting the quarter mark. We've seen races like this before in the majors when they took the Gen 4 cars, I think it was, to Rockingham a few years ago. And that one has become a bit infamous, unfortunately, because it was, I can't even remember how many cautions, but it was well into the double digits, I will tell you that. And it went very slow. Drivers probably feeling anxious, hoping that we don't wind up in that situation. And Banfield having some miscommunication, not realizing he needs to start on the outside of row 1.
I think he needs to get up there pretty quick because we do have the lights out. It's already going to come off of pit road. We're going to get this restart immediately as Dallas Pataska stands on the gas. We've got another green flag at North Wilkesboro.
Garrow Jr. trying to hold on to the 777, but can't get that second place away. Kenneth Reeder his outside. They were battling last time. Reeder doesn't seem to have the acceleration off of turn 2. Behind him, the 52 of Kevin Hill. Try to see if he can get underneath to make it 3 wide, but not quite. And we get another yellow already. This time I see Lynn Kinchlow involved in this one.
Yeah,
They made it to turn 4 this time.
Cardamom also involved in this. I think that Kinchlow gets into the back of Jeff Cardamone, and that's what triggers this one. And I can already tell the enthusiasm in Ozzy's voice.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of like a mirror, but it is all usually turns 3 and 4 where accidents like that happen because you go through 1 and 2, you go too wide, usually through those corners, you shuffle 4 positions. For 3 and 4, you try to get your position back. You sort of try to get back into single file. Somebody's maybe finishing up a move. And when that happens, when the sort of zipper happens, when you go from 2 lines to 1 line, that's usually when contact is made. And it only takes 1 bit of contact to send a car around. And when they're so closely together, well, that's gonna involve a lot more cars than just the one, and cautions breed cautions. And age-old saying, you can see there the 44 getting into the back of the 314, so that's Lynn Kinchlow and Jeff Carmoni involved in that one. I think Kinchlow was the one here who, well, both of them had relatively fresh tires, but I think Kinchlow in that one just going in a little bit too hot into the corner, and both of them paying the price as a result.
I will say, I think they're getting better at avoiding the wrecks. We saw a lot of cars slow up in time to keep that from collecting and damaging more vehicles. So, unfortunately, Kinchlow not one of those as he kind of kicked it off. Looks like We're getting word that it was 18 cautions for last night's Pacific region race. Obviously, we have the Pacific and Atlantic regions that run in this series. And then we're getting word that this is caution number 8 that we're on here right now for this one. But Ross Banfield up there at the front has been managing this well. He's ahead of the mess, and he's been chasing on Dallas Pataska to no avail. Looks like we got one of the cars that made it through the wreck here. This is the perspective from Carl Berg, Joey.
Right on board with this purple 503. See the chaos right in front. Has to get on the brakes, maybe just a little bit of contact with the 8 of Vervayan and squeaks through the middle. Nice piece of driving there from Carl Berg, able to keep it pointed the right direction. And one thing I did notice, that yellow, Joe, it seemed like the ice cream truck has officially left, so Patrick Kopp was able to go down and get some new tires.
All right, then. So where did that put him, actually? 17th, still on the lead lap critically. And they are going to get themselves in order now. Car looking a little less worse for wear thanks to his earlier incident. But he has another set of tires compared to a lot of those around him. In fact, perhaps 2 more sets of tires compared to some of those. What's happened there?
This was very interesting. Did you see it, Ozzy?
Yeah, so essentially one of the... I didn't quite see who that was, but I saw the start of it. They were trying to merge into a double file and just essentially a bumper hook for Håkan Schött.
Yeah, and Patrick Kopp was the other one involved in that. He'll get back to his position just as the green flag takes off. Oh, a little bit of a shot to the back of Ross Banfield. He could not get the car going this time. He'll still manage to take that second place. We got another yellow. Car's up on the outside of 1. This is for Matt Gelder.
Yeah, I'm really surprised with this group of drivers that were getting the immediate yellows. I'm not necessarily surprised to see the amount of yellows, but this was the 314 Cardamone. And if I remember, Jeff kind of got ran over last time. I think he was the one doing the running over this time.
Yeah, that looks to be the case. And I went back and checked myself. Carl Berg in that 503 escaped it yet again. Someone needs to go and check his pockets for a lucky rabbit's foot. He's certainly getting the rub of the green.
Well, you need luck in racing, Joe, because there's plenty of luck out there, and the majority of it is bad luck. You don't want that stuff.
Yeah. I feel like I've had more bad luck than good, honestly, when it comes to my races. But you take what you can get, no doubt. Here, let's get one more view. They didn't even get to turn 1. Ozzy, you were talking about they made it to turn 4 before. It's regressing.
Yeah, and that's just rear end contact. That's only way I can describe it. Just a bit too hot into the corner. Difference between tires, tire age certainly also playing a part, but that's just very, very unfortunate how it sends the car around. And these cars they are very light on the rear end. So the rear end lifts easily when you drive underneath it, especially as the front is kind of wedge shaped. So that means the car gets under another car quite easily. Now I did some math, guys. I did some mathematics. So right now we've had 9 cautions within the space of 90 laps, and actually 91 laps. So that puts us at an average of 1 caution per 10.4 laps, and that means we are on pace for 38.3 cautions today. So buckle in.
Okay, let's hope that it gets cleaned up in a little bit. We do still have 27 of the 28 running, Joey.
I was going to say, I don't know if I appreciate Ozzy's mathematics over here.
Aww.
Let's focus on the bright horizon that is the wonderful 87 cars here at North Wilkesboro and the amazing racing we're going to get.
Joey.
The amazing escape from Carl Berg. Nothing but smoke. Oh, wow. He couldn't even see what was going on.
You were right. The 503, maybe he's got that lucky rabbit's foot.
Okay, I think, yeah, okay, we've got the lights off this time by. I thought they were already too wide. No, everybody's just eager to go. I don't blame them. And we'll restart. Last time, Joey, Ross Banfield had a bit of a trouble at the start. Like I said, he got hit from behind. Wasn't too hard, but I wonder if he's going to be maybe a little bit more gentle with the throttle pedal.
That's a great point because they're about 40 laps on this set of tires, so they are well used. Got to be gentle in these lower gears, those acceleration moments.
All right, we've got themselves out of turn 4, and the green flag is out. This one much better for the 777 now. Dallas Pataska back to the lead as he has been for much of this race. Banfield able to stay ahead of Gagaro Jr., although it was tight down into turn 1. Little bit of 3 wide behind them, but for the most part, we at least made it through turns 1 and 2. Back through 3 and 4. Will we get a full lap of green flag racing? Yes, we will. Although one car almost spins into pit lane. That's Patrick Kopp, of all people.
And then the 24 of Travis Henderson right here. He almost slid up into Kenneth Reeder. Now dealing with Jeff Cardamone, a lapped car down on the bottom of the racetrack. So that's something that the entire field is going to have to navigate.
As we head back into turn 1, don't forget it's downhill into there, trying to get that car slowed up. Travis Henderson being chased by Kenneth Reeder. Ooh, car slowing down there on the bottom. I think that was maybe Jeff Cardamone, who is a lap down. He's trying to hold on to the lucky dog because he is the highest car a lap down.
Gotta be there in order to get that lap back. So it's that juggling game of how aggressive are you to stay with the pack, or how respectful are you to let everybody by as they are racing each other for position. Watch the 12th place of Jacob Madison back here, a little bit of side-by-side, chasing Lynn Kinchlow in that number 44.
Kinchlow, impressive. I mean, considering he's been involved in his own bit of dramas, and he's still in 11th on the lead lap, but he drifts a little bit high. Madison thinks about it. Oh, Madison has to check up, which causes a training reaction that forces Homan to lose a place there in that 222 car. Stephen Verveyen, who is actually still out there. Oh, and a spin off down to the inside from Jacob Madison.
Under yellow flag once again, and I don't think that this was any sort of contact. This was a self-inflicted wound from the number 27 of Jacob Madison going down into turn number 3. Just a little bit too much speed. We've seen it happen before, and when you carry too much speed into these corners, they start to slide, that big lazy slide, and around it goes.
This is definitely a car that is unique compared to a lot of others. Well, these cars, I should say. So drivers are having to adapt. We haven't mentioned it, but this series tries to mimic a lot of real-world races, and not all the drivers are usually racers in this type of car, Joey. So this might be the learning curve that we're starting to see. We're deeper into the race. The tires are getting worn out, and so many more, I think, are struggling.
And I think that this picture of the racetrack, it adds to your point, Joe. Look at it. It's not a perfect oval. It definitely has some different radius in 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4. So if you're not an oval racer, if this isn't your specialty, that just adds to the complexity of the things that you need to learn here with these old cars, this older track. But I also think that's one of the best parts about the Major Series, that if you can find success in this series, you can really classify yourself as one of the best on iRacing.
Absolutely. And this isn't the first time that they've run these cars. They've run them at Daytona and at Charlotte before, previously, but both tracks entirely different. This is the first time they're taking the 87 cars to a short track, and a period-appropriate one on top of things. So everybody really having to kind of rack their brains to get used to how this all races. The good news is we have passed the quarter mark of this race, but I will say that we have a time limit. It can only go 4 hours max, and we are, I think, about 50 minutes into this one. So unfortunately, that means that we're tracking close to how it might time out if they keep this up. Let's hope that's not going to be the case.
I think that how we started the race, Joe, it was trending in the good direction. However, with a lot of the recent yellows, you're right, we're kind of catching up to the time limit versus the lap limit, which will be really interesting to see. That plays a whole different card with the strategy that Ozzy was talking about earlier. So if you were asking me, I'm hoping for at least a little bit of another decent green flag run here.
Just a little bit of a side note. We mentioned earlier about our charity, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They've raised $54 to be donated to that this week. That is raised by drivers who want to get extra qualifying efforts in. They can pay for extra attempts, and that goes towards the charity of each round, as it does look like lights are off on the pace car, so we are good to go on another restart here for lap 111. We do still have 18 drivers left on the lead lap. It's starting to increase, I think, because of the number of cautions, and the lucky dogs been able to get those laps back. There goes the pace car. There goes Pataska. He once again takes them away down into turn 1. Ross Banfield is able to get that second place out of danger, but Travis Henderson very deep into the first corner. It might serve him well to stay ahead of Gagaro Jr.
Gets up alongside on that quarter panel of Ross Banfield in that 777, really making that high lane work, but now the 777 is able to get the exit, so it moves to the 42. Gargaro Jr. versus Henderson. Can Henderson hang on to that third spot using the middle lane?
Oh, what a big slip up. This is going to be towards the front of the pack. They catch it. That was Gagaro Jr. you saw in the background getting tipped by Henderson. Somehow they stay green, and they will carry on here onto lap 113. That could have been a massive wreck with them being in second and third.
And you gotta wonder, is there any sort of damage on either one of those race cars? They both hit the concrete wall on the outside after making contact with each other. You gotta be careful.
And that was third or fourth. Apologies, misspoke there as they come off the turns once again, flying past our stationary camera here on the front stretch. You can see they do get quite fast here, these cars, even though it is a shorter circuit, and these are heavy machines. They got a lot of power underneath them. Watching the battle here in the mid-pack as the 658 of Jason Wallet has moved himself up to 7th, a gain of 10.
Oh, and then it looks like we just had an impact on the front straightaway there. Maybe Mike Golightly or Tom Dreiling involved with that one, but that's going to bring out another yellow flag.
I think it was Steven Vervayan. If he had a big impact, that might be day done for him. See if we can find it in a bit. Nobody else hit him, though. So credit to everybody else for being real heads up, although I think he did hit the corner of the car. That's really bad news. And I do see it actually smoking as it goes by our booth.
Yeah, you're right. This is the 8 of Steven Vervayan. And thankfully, it did happen a little bit further in the back of the field, because this car, once it hit that inside concrete wall, it bounced back into the racing line. So luckily, the number 8 didn't collect anybody else. But you're right. It is smoking. There is damage on that car.
In fact, that should mean, yeah, he's got a black and orange flag. He must come into the pits to get it repaired, which he does. But now he is out of his fast repair, and he has to sit and wait patiently for the team to actually wrench on that thing to be able to return to the circuit. Okay, so a couple single car incidents recently. That is changing things slightly. Now, we've got the first incident that kept us green flag racing. This is Gagaro, and you can see that wasn't really Gagaro's problem there. Well, it was his problem in the end, but it wasn't his mistake that caused it. It was the car next to him losing traction.
That was the 24 of Travis Henderson that you were talking about. Just got loose, and you're right, got into Gargaro Jr. And thankfully, those zip ties got that front bumper right back on there.
Yeah, that's just... for those not familiar with iRacing, that's communication with the servers, and sometimes it needs a second to update and get accurate readings on what the hit actually did to the cars. So if you see pieces pop back into place, that is why. I do love the new damage model being put on these cars, though. It certainly makes for some spectacular looking wrecks. The only thing that makes me sad, Joey, is I was looking through, and I've been saying there's 4 cars. There's actually 3 that have signed up for this, even though there's 4 available. There's the Chevy Monte Carlo, which is by far the most popular. And then we've got the Ford Thunderbird, as we're going to check on the replay here of what did bring out the yellow. And then the one that only sees a couple, the Buick LeSabre, The new Pontiac Grand Prix is not out there, which makes me extremely sad because I actually drove an 87 Pontiac 6000 SDE and not a Grand Prix as my first car. So I was super excited when that got introduced to the service.
Well, I gotta ask you, did you have some long hair back then too?
I did actually. I did have long hair in high school and for a long time in college as well. Part of it was just down to, well, I don't feel like having to go get a haircut. So it was the lazy way out.
Well, I mean, I'm picturing you right here on the back straight, maybe with one of these Coors in hand with that hair.
Well, let's first focus on the racing because we're getting ready to restart. And there is the green flag. It looks like Banfield might be under threat this time. Vrosky had his nose in, and he's going to back out of it. Didn't want to cause a wreck right down into turn 1. To his outside, Hill in the 52. Huge launch off of turn 2.
Really good drive off, but the 10 of Vrosky is going to hang tough on the inside. He says you're not going to get that third place position quite that easy. This is really good. Side by side, back down into turn number 1. It's the 52. That's the black and green Kevin Hill, and then you've got Trevor Vrosky hanging on down on the inside.
And apologies to Grabowski. He is running the Pontiac, so yay for somebody flying that flag out there. We'll see how he goes as the race carries on. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th place between Gagaro Jr. and Vrosky side by side down through turn 1. The 10 on the inside and he slips up a little. It doesn't seem like the inside line, Ozzy, is working as well right now.
No, it's not, and we had some comments in the chat regarding that as well. I already mentioned part of the reason why the outside line is working well is because some drivers want to preserve tires, and also what Joey mentioned, rubber being laid out on the inside line, making the cars effectively slower because there's less grip as there's more hot rubber on the track, making it slippery. But also, all these 2 wide restarts are cleaning the outside line of marbles and dust and everything else that might be otherwise making it dirty. It's now pretty clean, and it also has less rubber, so people are happy running that outside line. Now, what makes it quite risky is how those walls on the outside, those are concrete barriers. Safer barrier hadn't even been invented in 1987, so that's a concrete barrier waiting there on the outside. And that sort of comes in, especially you can see it there on the exit of turn 2, but at the exit of turn number 4 as well. It looks a little bit wider, it looks like there's more room, but if you run a straight line right next to the wall, you're gonna eventually end up hitting that wall the way it comes in. So that makes it a bit risky, and we'll also see some drivers sort of navigate away from the expected line. We see some drivers taking it a little bit tighter than you would normally see at the exit of these corners, as we are watching these guys, Kevin Hill and David Gagaro Jr., just running some laps together and some side-by-side racing as well.
Yeah, as they will fly down this front stretch. Somebody is off down to the inside wall. No caution as they stay off the racing line. That's going to be Patrick Kopp with yet more problems. He's only taken 1 pit stop in this whole race.
Yeah, maybe he's used to those old tires. He needs the old stuff out there because the new stuff... Oh, and now we actually have a yellow flag. You see, we're coming up to it out of turn number 4 here. Not sure who this one involved with.
Covey, it looks like. Covey and Go Lightly, as he did not go lightly into the back of Covey. He turned him completely around, and the 72 did a full 360 before returning to the circuit. So we'll go to caution because of that, but really an incident that almost could have gotten away without it in the end.
And you see the 43 just drive right into the back bumper. He gets into the wall as well. Just think a lot of these drivers, maybe they don't realize how small the brakes are, how heavy the cars are, how limited grip the tires are. I think a lot of these, they're non-malicious, really light contact, but it causes a yellow.
Well, the temperatures have definitely gone up. We can see a little bit of cloud cover around, but there hasn't been much over the track itself as we're at 98 Fahrenheit. Remember, it was, I think, around 91 or so when we started this race. So it's definitely heating up as we go. We're at lap 131. So who takes a pit stop here, Ozzy? Does anybody feel like it's worth the time to try and put fresh rubber on it?
Well, Joe, we are at caution number 12, and as you can see, these drivers, especially the leaders, Pataska, Banfield, Kevin Hill, etc., making it past the pit entry. They are not coming to the pit lane right now, and I think they are all expecting these cautions to continue. And while we have, Pataska pitted first on lap number 59, so he is, as I'm double checking the number just to make sure, he is on lap 73 of his stint. However, that stint has seen about 8 cautions during it, so there's not much in terms of green flag racing under those tires. They are able to save fuel under caution, they are able to save tire under caution, so I think they'll be able to run these tires up to around 150, 160 region even. I know that sounds very, very long, that'll be an 80-90 lap stint if it goes up into that region, but they're definitely able to do it, especially if they keep getting cautions at this rate.
That's true. Now, as far as more cautions, some of that could be down to how many cars we do have racing, and we're down to 26. We've lost Medina and Cardamone, but Vervayan has been sitting in pit lane getting his repairs for an extensive amount of time. Not sure if and when he's going to be getting back out onto the track. So 25 of them are essentially circulating currently. And if that number continues to get lower, hopefully that will mean more green flag racing with fewer cars to have issues out on the track itself. I was thinking about our discussion over the old pictures of me and whatnot with the long hair. The thing I actually want, Joey, is pictures of my old car, because yes, it wasn't a Grand Prix, but it's the correct year and it was a Pontiac. I want to paint up my Pontiac to look exactly like my old high school car.
I think that would be super cool. It's always nostalgic looking back on this stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons these cars are so successful here in iRacing is it takes us back to those times when we were still kids dreaming about this stuff, dreaming about being a race car driver. It's pretty cool.
Still had those dreams back then, but I'm happy to be a commentator now as we get to call the race starting back up. Pataska and Banfield gonna lead the way. Gagaro Jr. and Henderson have been at each other for much of this, but this time Henderson doesn't look like he's got the grunt off the corner. He's gonna try and slam the door shut on Kevin Hill in the 52 though.
Yeah, still using that higher lane as the 24 of Travis Henderson, and he's making it work, and unfortunately, another yellow flag.
Oh, did you see that in the background? It just, cars were piling into one another, and I think maybe some of them actually went into the pit entry barrier, which only has those little set of tires to kind of protect the car. Safety was not of the utmost concern back at this stage of NASCAR. So I suspect a few got a very rude awakening if they slammed into that.
I think Robert Courtney got tipped around by the 222 to start this one off. I believe that's Joseph Homan, and it's deja vu, Joe. It's just the slightest bit of contact in the laziest of spins, but it just collects everybody.
Yeah, this case, it looks like people really didn't have a place to go, including poor Kitchlow. His race started so well, and ever since he got moved back into the peanut gallery, he's just been unable to escape it.
Sometimes that's how it goes. You know, you get back in the scrum, and it almost seems like they race harder back there than they do at the front. And unfortunately, it's taken a lot of race car drivers out of races.
Well, this has been a bit messy, but we kind of expected that coming in. If we're honest, we knew this was going to be a difficult one. And the drivers are at least carrying on. And to their credit, it is against the rules to try and get on the radio and argue and bicker and whatnot. I've heard very little of that here today. So a big credit to all the participants who've at least outwardly kept a cool head.
And real fast, this isn't abnormal from short track racing. I know that it's a little frustrating that we're not getting the green flag racing that we want to see, but this does happen at short tracks all the time.
So, a little bit of trivia for you guys. We are, of course, this is the Holly Farms 400 in Major Series. The real life Holly Farms 400 was run in 1987, as you might expect. The driver finishing 10th in that race was Rusty Wallace in the number 27 car. Now, in this race, the number 27 running 11th right now, just one position away, and that would be Jacob Madison in the 27. And I believe that is also the highest position where a car with the number corresponding to that 1987 race currently is. So we don't have the race was won by Terry Labonte, Indy 11, Dale Earnhardt was second, and Bill Elliott was third. We don't have an 11, 3, or 9 in this field, nor do we have any other numbers in such high positions. 27 is the highest at the moment.
Well, I'm going to show my age, and those were all names that I grew up watching racing on TV. So definitely some classics out there. As there you see the 27 getting ready for the restart, and green flag is indeed out once again. Banfield and Pataska have got this one down to a science currently, but Henderson and Gagaro Jr. are actually going to try and squabble for third position there, around the outside for the 24, trying to pick it back up. Gagaro Jr. has his nose in on the bottom. Can he try and get it back?
A little bit of fender on quarter panel contact, and Henderson is still hanging tough on that top side. He's really been making that middle lane work. He's kind of forced himself up there on these restarts, but he's doing what he can to survive in the top 5.
Coming very close to one another down the back stretch. Gagaro Jr. has found the inside line to his liking on this restart, and back into third he goes. Henderson slots in behind him. Trevor Vavrosky back there in 5th. Then you got your first battle back there. It's the 52 of Kevin Hill versus Kenneth Reeder.
And we're finally getting a little bit of green flag racing knock on this wood desk over here as we watch the 41, Kenneth Reeder. You were just mentioning him using way up top on the racetrack. That was too far up.
Lost him a lot of time, and he's no longer in the battle now. A little bit of too wide behind them, you can see, with Wallet and Baker. That's for 9th position. So 144 laps into this thing. Still haven't quite reached the halfway mark of this race. And it's certainly been an adventure out there, but Pataska has led much of it. Driver who is usually quite good on the oval side of things, especially here in the majors.
It'll be interesting to see when this strategy call is made. We were talking about how far they can stretch it on fuel because of how much yellow flag they've been experiencing on this stint. I really do wonder how far they can go because the tire fall off is only about a quarter of a second from their best. So I think that they've got plenty of life left.
Certainly seems like it. Here we get another little fight between Carl Burke and Joseph Homan. Looks like Burke going to be able to get that 10th spot. He had to use that lucky dog at one point to get back on the lead lap, but he's cracked into the top 10 thanks to that little stroke of luck, if you will, as the 5:03 now sets his sights to try and catch up to Baker.
This was a little bit more of what we were expecting to see here. Nice little green flag run. Watching Steven Grabowski in that number 929. As we jump up to Matt Gelder now in the number 69 car, trying to get underneath right here for that 13th place position. That's Kurt Van Aken he's battling with.
Yeah, Gelder's had that car facing every which direction over the course of this race, but at least he's got it facing the right way now, and the 33 of Van Aken is going to make him fight hard for that 13th position. Behind him, it's Kent Schlow as another yellow comes out. Trying to see if I can find it. I think maybe Wolf Dietrich Hotto. There he is.
Yep. Looks like this was down into turn number 3.
Oh, was that the leader? The leader just ran into him.
No, didn't run into him. He was spun around behind by another car, slowing down to the caution. But of course, this means since Pataska came to a stop, I think he is gonna get shuffled back to the back of the line.
Wow. So Gagaro Jr.'s now your leader. Banfield has moved into second because of that little checkup. See if Pataska will be allowed back through. No, they're going to put Banfield up to the lead, it looks like. And Gagaro in behind him. Pataska's picking up a few spots here. It's up to iRacing to decide where it'll put him. Oh, he's going to pit.
Yep.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, was just thinking he might pit. Sorry, Joey. Was just thinking he might be pitting here because he got shuffled back to the line, and he's at the end of the lead lap, so might as well pit here on lap 151 and get some new tires here. Get some new tires, get that car topped up with fuel. He's not gonna lose anything because he's gonna be on the back end of the lead lap anyway, and we're gonna have a replay coming up.
All right, let's see what happened here as he comes around. So we've got the chopper cam on him. And I'm guessing with the car slow, he just tries to stop to keep from having an issue. And indeed, yeah, he's slowing up. Car behind did not see what was going on. And that actually was Lynn Kinchlow, I believe, that ran into him.
That was the 777 of Ross Banfield that ran into him. So that was actually, it was just very interesting, Joe. I'm a little perplexed. This 777 had the yellow flag out for a long time, and I know that not everybody checks up immediately, but unfortunately, he went into the back of our leader pretty hard.
And we have another big development. Pataska's got a long pit stop. I think he's repairing damage. I wonder, no, okay, he doesn't have a black and orange flag, but there must have been enough that happened to the car that he felt he needs to get that repaired, because this is not just tires and fuel. He's now 2 laps down.
Well, and that's really bad because Lucky Dog out the window. 1 lap you can certainly crawl back from it, especially with how many yellows we've been having. But you're right. It's sitting down here on pit road.
Now that is Wolf Dietrich Hotto that we see on screen now, though. Is it going to be even 3 laps down for Dallas? He's still sitting in pit lane. There he is now on your screen. 3 laps. A pace car just went by.
And I wonder, going to bring out a different movie now. Wonder if he's going and getting a chicken sandwich there from the infield. I heard that place has a nice sauce.
Well, I mean, it is the Holly Farms 400 that it would be appropriate if they'd get a chicken sandwich. We're going to get ready to go green flag racing. Things have been turned on their head. It was Pataska who had control for so long. What does this mean with Ross Banfield now controlling the field? Will he be able to hold off Gagaro Jr.? Let's find out as the green flag waves. And down into turn 1, the 10 looking eager. Trevor Vrosky looking around the outside along with Gagaro Jr. trying to set it in deep into the first corner. Looks like maybe Banfield not as good. They're starting from the inside.
Yeah, and 42 of Gargaro Jr. hanging tough, but now Banfield fighting back on that inside lane. We're going to see the momentum carry it up along the top. Gargaro Jr. only inches separating them apart going into 1.
Making a fight of this, the 42, fast to back off, unfortunately. He was giving it a right go up there as Ross Banfield looks back at him now, and Trevor Vrosky checking out the high side, see if maybe he could challenge on Gagaro Jr. as well. This really did change things up massively. We haven't seen a battle for the lead in quite some time.
It was really all Dallas Pataska that has just ran away from the field, and unfortunately another yellow flag out there. I think maybe Kurt Van Aken, this time in the number 33 involved.
Yeah, I think he got a piece of go lightly, and then Van Aken also got turned around. See Michael Hogg maybe a little bit taking part in that one as other cars had to scatter around them to try and avoid the spinners. Well, trying to see, did Pataska? No, Pataska's still sitting on pit lane. He's now 7 laps down. Absolute shame if this is the end of his race. I hope he gets back into it, at least try, especially considering, I'm pretty sure, yeah, Pataska came into this leading this race, and Banfield was in second. That has big implications. I'm sure neither of them are happy.
Watch the 33 here of Kurt Van Aken just get into the side of the 43, turn him around. He spins himself down onto the low side of the racetrack. I don't think there's really much damage on those 2 cars, but just brings the race, brings the momentum to a halt again.
A few more drivers stopping in for pit stops. Gagaro Jr. going to do so, his second of the day. So should be, yeah, it looks like fresh tires that he put on. Now, Vervayan has returned to the track, it looks like. We got the cameras on him. He's 26, and this is why I'm hoping that Dallas will get back out there, because he could still gain some spots, or put it the other way, he could lose spots if he doesn't get back out there. Vervayan 34 laps off the lead, and Go Lightly is in the pits as well. Is this the second time in this yellow that he's done that?
See Michael Hogg down there. It's pretty interesting to see Vervine come back out on the racetrack, and you mentioned the similarities that hopefully Dallas Pataska does. Maybe there's just a really long line over there at that chicken shack as we watch the 744 get back out onto the racetrack. We still got the lights on, but you were mentioning it's been a while since we've seen a battle for the lead. All of these cars, they've got 100 laps on their tires. They're all pretty even up front. I'm wondering who's going to blink first on coming to get that fresh stuff.
Well, Patrick Kopp, of all people, actually. He's been out on 69 laps, and he's just pitted in. I'm watching him take all 4 fresh ones. I think this should keep him on the lead lap as well. Yes, it does indeed. And he gets out on his way. So not the driver I would have expected, but maybe this might as well come down to a timed race instead. So this might be something where you'll want to try and stop now and see if you can get as far as you can go with the way this has been playing out lately, Ozzy.
Yep, and we are officially past 100 lap stints for the leaders. Ross Banfield has done 102 laps on this tank of fuel and with these tires. Travis Henderson 103, Kenneth Reeder 102, Jason Wallet 103 as far as the leading group are concerned. Everybody else still in double digits, albeit Wawrowski with 95 as we get back racing.
You can see the crinkle on the hood of the 777 of Banfield, who's trying to keep the lead, but Wawrowski is going to take it away from him. The number 10 is your new leader. Kenneth Reeder is in 3rd position as we got a battle for 4th between Henderson and Wallet. Wallet's been sneaky in getting himself high up the order.
And Wawrowski continues to leave that low lane open for the 777 here. I'm curious why he does that. Now, when we see him race side by side, the high lane, it can make the passes, but when everybody got single file, they migrated back to the low side of the racetrack. So I think leaving that low lane is just inviting Ross to try to make a pass.
Down on the bottom, he wants it back from Trevor Wawrowski. Trevor, another one that sits 5th in the points. He's a long distance back, but he could make himself a factor in this championship if he gets a good result here, and he's going to try his darndest to do so. Side by side across the line once again. They have been at it hammer and tongs since this restart.
Ross still hanging tough on the bottom. Eventually, something's going to have to give. It looks like Wawrowski's going to clear Banfield going off into turn 3. But once again, the number 10, he decides to choose that middle lane on the racetrack. That's where he wants to place his car.
That'll move the 4th Thunderbird up into the lead without challenge this time. Also, sad news for fans of Dallas Pataska. Our points leader has officially retired from the race.
Unfortunate here as we jump back to Jason Wallet in this number 658. Been hearing reports that he's really been using the top side of the racetrack and been using it to his advantage.
Certainly seems to have gotten him this high up the order. And again, we haven't seen him involved in a lot of wrecks, at least that I have noticed, as we go back to side by side for the lead. Banfield versus Wawrowski. Trevor going to try and keep him behind once again. He was able to pinch down that 777 hard enough before, and he's going to do it yet again. Just inside line, struggling despite the shorter distance.
Yeah, but I'm really surprised that Banfield's been able to hold the low line and be able to put the power down as well as he has. Now, typically when you run that higher lane, you don't have the steering wheel cranked into it as much. That allows you to roll on the throttle a little bit sooner coming out of the corner, but it doesn't seem like the 777. Now, there's the wiggle that I was looking for out of Banfield.
Yeah, he could be using up his stuff pretty bad here. Granted, we have had short stints, so maybe he wasn't thinking long term. He's going to keep his nose in down into 1 and 2 once again. They got to watch out because behind them, Kenneth Reeder is still watching with eager eyes, along with Gagaro Jr. and Henderson having their own fight there in the background for the 4th and 5th positions. We stay too wide here. It's been this way pretty much for the majority of the laps since we restarted this race. Fair racing between these two.
After a little bit of a messy start, tip of the cap, like you were saying, to both of them. They're leaving room for each other, one lane, a racetrack for each of these drivers.
Wow, and Gagaro Jr. is not only dispensed with Henderson, he's on the attack on Kenneth Reeder there on the outside. Can he manage to completely drop him is the question. Going to be difficult because it looks like he's a little boxed in on the bottom. Oh, he's just about clear.
I was saying that I still feel like the bottom is the fastest way around the racetrack. I think this middle lane or the top lane can be a great defense coming off. It keeps the bottom lane choked up as you see Banfield have to come down just a little bit. But I think the 42, Gargaro Jr., he can roll that bottom a little bit better than the rest.
Does look like he's got a good run with it, but as we go up to the high side now for the 42, he's going to switch strategies. Oh, he almost got shoved into the wall, though, the 777 last moment. Oh, what happened to Holman here?
He's out at turn number 2. Thankfully, no yellow flag on the racetrack. Usually, this is an indication of another big loose moment off of the corner.
Oh, we get a yellow, though. We're going to get interrupted with Robert Covey, and he is going to get it whipped back around and started. But again, he got help this time from Patrick Kopp, who is trying to use those fresh tires. Speaking of which, Ozzy, I just noticed you pointed at our tire change sheets, and you noticed something that we had completely missed.
Yeah, as we see a replay of what happened to Robert Covey, let's take that first. He was just absolutely clattered into by what looks like the 13 car, and that would be Patrick Kopp hitting Robert Covey. So that was very unfortunate. But yeah, David Gargaro Jr., there's a good reason why he was able to roll that bottom line as we see the leaders bidding. And that's because his tires were only about 15, 16 laps old. So they were only down about, that was their first extended green flag stint. Whereas the leaders who are now in the pit lane, Banfield, etc., their tires were over 100 laps old.
So that is it. I wonder if it is more down to fuel, that they just finally ran out of it out there. Let's see who's going to be the highest driver to get in and out. Lynn Kenchlow with a 2-tire call. I have to admit, Joey, I did not expect anybody to try something like this.
Yeah, especially not even halfway through the race. An interesting one, but hey, maybe he's looking for a little bit of a different handling characteristic in the car, and 2 tires can give that to you.
Curiously, they were left sides, and then he went back out. I wonder if he'd pulled that before and we just didn't notice.
So traditionally, left side tires, they're meant to hook the car, help carry it around the corner. It's not necessarily going to provide you the best traction down coming out of the corner. Remember, you're still on the used tires on the outside. So maybe the 44 is just looking to roll the middle a little bit more, and those left sides can certainly help with that.
That's interesting. So some curious strategy calls from various drivers here. And we're just about getting to the halfway point soon. But it's been certainly an eventful race, to put it one way. And how about this? So Patrick Kopp, remember I said he pitted before? He's going to restart this race in 6th position. This is a car that at one point was rolling over.
I love it, and he hasn't used the faster pair, at least that I see of. When he came in and got some tires, he had that virtual pit crew bust out that big old hammer, pound out some of those dents. And if you guys follow NASCAR, they got those big saws. Have you seen those giant concrete saws that they cut open the cars with?
I can't imagine trying to use that during a live pit stop. I'd be a little bit afraid, especially everybody running around in those situations. But they know what they're doing. So as we go double file once again, different order at the top again. Gargaro Jr. going to restart in the lead. Matt Gelder in the 69 machine going to be starting next to him. Then it's Hill and Madison on the second row. It is a complete change of face here at the front of the field since we saw for most of the laps. Green flag is out. Gargaro Jr. on pretty fresh rubber is going to try to scamper away, but Gelder's on the same strategy.
Yeah, well, the 52 is actually on the same strategy as Gargaro Jr. I think the 69 of Matt Gelder, that's the purple and blue car up top. He is on 86 lap old tires. Now, we have had a lot of the yellow flag running, but watch out behind that 69.
Yep, you're right. Apologies, I was looking at the wrong car. We were 4 wide in the midfield in the background. Things still staying pretty hot out here as they fly off of turn 2, climb up the hill towards turn 3. Rob Courtney here in the 64, running the extreme high line.
Yeah, and then check out the number 10. Remember, we were just covering him beforehand, and oh, more door banging going down into turn number 1, Joe. This is short track racing. This is mixed tires. Oh boy, watch out.
And he's got the 44 on the 2 fresh insides coming up around his outside as we check out David Baker now sitting in 7th position. One of the drivers that just took tires in that last time through. Trevor Vrosky is the highest among those that did stop this last time. So keep an eye on that 10 on the timing tower as we go through 3 and 4 one more time.
It's just crazy how much tires are worth at this old, worn-out racetrack. You watch Vrosky in that number 10 car, and he's just charging his way up through. As David Baker also is working the bottom side of the racetrack. He's on some newer tires as well.
Yeah, Gelder, who you mentioned, with now 90-lap-old tires, just plunging. And he might get the advantage a little bit later once he puts some fresh ones on. In fact, Gelder has only had 2 pit stops, so he still has, I believe, 4 more pit stops that he can do. If he takes all 4, we get another yellow.
Lynn Kinchlow, Joe, unfortunately.
Oh, again. Now, did he have help, or did he self-spin on what I imagine was a bit of a loose car? He self-spun.
Yeah, and this was an interesting one. I saw him wiggling out of turn 4 and way down on the inside of the racetrack on the straightaway, and then got crossed up again in turn number 1, and that's finally when it went around on him.
Kinch has seen a lot out there. He'll be able to write a novel from this one, no doubt. That Buick LeSabre has been backwards and forwards and everywhere in between. So the Texas driver, woo, loose off the corner like you said. There's that huge steering wheel we're talking about. And then trying to turn it into the corner, well, they're already heated up, and they said no thanks.
Just nothing there, and I think that was the 242 that might have got into him as well. That was Scott Kukas that might have got a piece of it.
Scott currently running in 13th on the lead lap. Lynn Kinchlow also still on the lead lap after that one. Just spun, carried on. As you saw, had a bit of a lift off the ground from that hit, but it doesn't look like that hurt the cars too badly. Most everybody has now taken fresh tires within recent memory. Oldest tires I'm seeing are actually Gagaro Jr. and Kevin Hill are leaders, oddly enough.
And Matt Gelder. Matt Gelder has 92 laps on his stint.
Did he stop? I think.
No.
Yes. Gelder just stopped.
Okay, I was going to say, I was looking for him on our sheet here, and I did not see the 90 mark next to other cars. Yeah, so he's cycled to the back. Actually, a correction for all of us, including myself. Rob Courtney, 52 laps since he last changed tires.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and see, some of this stuff that we got here, yeah, the number 64, I'm seeing that as well, the black and orange machine out there. So I don't think it's going to play out too well. I'm looking who he's got behind him. Only about a handful of cars, and they are all on fresher stuff. And just as I say that, I think I just saw the 929. He's facing backwards on pit road right now.
Okay, that's a new one for me. Not sure.
This was almost another incident. Remember what we saw with our leader. This was the 13 car spinning the 929 in turn number 1. Under yellow flag.
Oh, boy. And it's not the first time we've seen incidents under yellow. In fact, I remember one of the cars running into each other, trying to catch back up there. Was it even on the pace laps at the start of the race? I was trying to. It's so much has happened since then, but
yeah, there's been a lot that's been going on. It looks like the 929, the 13, they're going to be lined up alongside of each other, so this will be fun.
All right, so looks like we're ready to go. At least most everybody is caught back up. There's the incident. And he's going to have to get spun back around to return. We go green flag racing. Gagaro Jr., your leader. Hill is in second with Vrosky trying to see if he can get up the inside. Hill in the number 52 up on the high side. Evolve SimSport car. Down low there, Trevor Vrosky almost pushing our leader forward.
Yeah, and that 10 car has got the freshest tires. He's about half the stint length on his tires, so expect that number 10 car to continue doing these over-under moves. He's been using that middle lane. He's going to continue to try to carry that speed up top.
Back down on the front stretch once more. Gagaro Jr. now back to single file. In fact, they are single file pretty much for the top 7 cars. Heard someone calling out wrecking in the background, but I don't see a caution flag, so I guess we carry on.
Yeah, we will keep the green flag on the racetrack here as continue to turn laps. We are approaching the halfway distance here. Let's get some green flag laps done.
In fact, watching Ross Banfield, remember that 777? He's back into 4th place with only 18 lap old tires. Vrosky on the same strategy as him, so he's not the leader on his strategy, but he is well up there, and considering those in front of them definitely with a number of lap older tires, the advantage should swing towards that 777 pretty soon.
We'll just have to see how it really all goes. He's got the freshest tires, like you were mentioning. He's trying to get to the inside of the 52 right now. Looks like he will officially clear him going down into turn number 1. But hang on one sec. The 52 of Kevin Hill really doing a good job on the defense here. He's going to hang tough on the outside. I think here in 3 and 4, though, Ross will finally clear him.
So that's up to 3rd now. Sets his sights to Trevor Vrosky to see if he can catch him down and make a pass maybe, or will he work with him to try and chase David Gagaro Jr., since those two are on the same strategy and Gagaro is not. Maybe it'd be better to just demote him first. We'll see what they do in the end, if they can catch them, as we quickly approach the halfway mark. Oh, massive wreck. The 242 smashing into the wall, but no yellow.
Yeah, we're stay green. That's Matt Gelder in the number 69 car. Remember, we've seen him have quite a few amount of incidents already, but here is the lead pack hunting him down. Still green flag racing.
Coming up and off of 4 once again. A little bit of side-by-side between Banfield and Vrosky. Vrosky round the outside, Banfield down at the inside. Well, there's the answer to our question. Banfield now not waiting for anybody. He's up to 2nd, and he's on a charge.
Those fresh tires are paying off right now, and we're going to see how quickly he can go up there, get around David Gagaro Jr., and I'll be curious, too, when are we going to get to see that lap traffic come into play? That really is what dictates these short track races on the long runs.
We now start to see the 777 try his best to run away from Vrosky. He's got about a 2nd to make up to Gagaro Jr. And that's not going to be impossible, but certainly will chew up a lot of his tires if he tries to chase him down. The UDOX Oliver car doing his best to try and contribute points for that team and catch up to Evolve Sim Sports. Well, we have hit that halfway mark now officially, finally. And we still see actually 19 cars left on the lead lap. Whoa, big moment for Dreiling there in the background. He's going to catch it. The 26th, though, might need a change of pants after that one.
He's coming up out of turn number 4, and we were talking about lazy spins all day. This was just him getting on the throttle, but a good save there from Tom Dreiling as we continue to chase down Patrick Kopp. Look at this pack right here. This is about 6 cars, all within half a second.
Around the outside there for the 13. Oof, quite a pack of cars. 2x2x2. Noah's Ark up the back stretch. And the 64 down on the inside of that 13. Can't quite get the speed. Oh, he tried to drift out, but the 13 was there. Patrick Kopp, P15 for him. Whoa, spins behind them. We get another caution. The 8 of Vervayan gets hit by, it looks like, Michael Hogg. And I think there may have been a couple other cars involved. In fact, how... Okay, he's going to be able to get back on. That is bizarre. That is Kukas. Yeah, that's the 242.
Yeah, unfortunately, this incident was multiple lap down cars getting involved into a wreck. Scott Kukas got into the back of Steven Vervayan and then kind of got tipped around himself. That's why he found himself on the inside of that guardrail.
Okay, let's take a look at the incident. I didn't even know you could drive on that part. Sometimes iRacing does not model that as a part of the track that you can go onto, but he's very lucky that it did, and poor Vervayan is still out there. I thought that would have sent him to pit lane, but no.
Really just interesting here, some of the stuff. 222 on pit lane. Hawkenshote also on pit lane in the number 101. I think some of these cars are on the lead lap. I believe the 101 is on the lead lap. The 23rd place car, 744, that's Michael Hogg. He is a couple laps down, and with the pace car coming around start-finish, they're in danger of going one more down.
Do want to note, Gagaro Jr. is in a very good position here to take an important milestone for himself. He's got 3 wins in his career in the majors, but they are all in the sportsman split. Now, he hasn't won yet this season, and he's been racing in the pro for the first time this time around. If he can take this victory, it'll be the first time that he'll win a pro race in the majors.
I think anytime you win a race in the majors, it's something special. We were talking about how not all of these drivers are oval specialists. Well, not all of them are road specialists. Not all of them are rally. Like, they hit all of these different marks. And I think anytime you claim a win in any one of the series, it builds confidence. And here you are.
Oh, Vervayan did have to come into pit lane, and he's staying in there a while. We're not sure how long it's going to take, but he has lost his spare car, so it could be lengthy depending. And he's already 35 laps down from the lead. I believe Joseph Holman got the lucky dog on that one, so he's taking his pit stop, and he's going to get back out there in that 222 machine to find the tail end of the field. So for those curious about the clock on this one, we did get enough green flag racing that we actually are looking like we could go within the time limit, because right now about 2 hours and 21 minutes are left with less than 200 laps to go. But we'll need to average what we had done on that first half through. We'll see if we can manage that as the drivers get ready. So we are led by David Gagaro Jr., Ross Banfield. Going to try and see if he can overtake him. Green flag is out, and Gagaro Jr. gets a mighty jump out to the front there. Looks like Vavrovsky's going to try and demote Banfield, but he can't get the nose in.
Oh, there is a little bit of contact, and Banfield definitely shut the door on Vavrovsky. You could see that he wanted to keep that track position, and look at how close the 777 is to our leader, Gagaro Jr. He's really putting the pressure on.
Remember, Banfield with, I think, about 18-lap fresher tires or something like that. He's got quite a bit of an advantage over David here. If he can keep hold of him, that's the big question. It's behind them. We're watching Kenneth Reeder with David Baker racing alongside Carl Burke in the mid-pack.
Side by side. Oh, and there's a heavy contact. I believe that was Rob Courtney into the inside wall on the front straightaway. It does bring out another yellow flag.
Yeah, unfortunately, the car, I think, bounced back a little bit. He tried to hold the brakes, but it went just far enough into the racing line that poor Stephen Grabowski smashed into him. So there goes my beloved Pontiac, and it was a pretty big hit, along with Hawkenshoot in the 101.
Joe, you still have the memories to hold on to.
Yes. But I don't know if I have the photos. Like I said, I gotta dig those up. So, yeah, that was a few cars that I think might have to stop in pit lane, and if they haven't taken their spare car, will need to use it from here. Let's take a look at the incident, and I'm wondering if it's similar to what we saw from Kinchlow getting loose off the corner. Yes, indeed it is. He just got a little bit light in the rear, and the Pontiac had no place to go, bashes into the 64, and then on top of it, completely pancakes the right-hand side into the wall, Ozzy. So some massive damage for a few cars in this one. We haven't seen many wrecks like that have absolutely taken cars out, but when they do, it looks like it is just a thump.
Yep, and in a separate incident or related to that, going into the next corner, 72 of Robert Covey and 43 of Michael Lightly came together entering turn number 1 there. You saw it just at the bottom of the shot in that previous replay, and they also spun around with lighter damage, thankfully, but both of them took it to the pit lane, or at least Covey took it to the pit lane and took the opportunity to take a new set of tires, fill the car up with fuel as well. Now, you keep talking about your Pontiac. My first car was 1 year older than yours. It was a 1986 Volkswagen Golf Mark II.
Ooh, that's a lot nicer than the Pontiac, honestly.
No, it wasn't.
You said this Pontiac was my dad's business car, which traveled all across the country. Then my brother had it before me, so you can imagine the state it was in by the time I got it.
Yeah, but remember that it was 2010 by the time I got a driver's license.
True.
So the car was older than me at that point, over 20 years old. I paid 500 euros for it, and that came with 2 sets of extra tires. So you can imagine how much the rest of it was worth. And the clutch lasted for 6 days.
Wow. That's even worse than in my 20s. I had bought myself an Oldsmobile from a friend of my brother's that lasted me 30 days before the engine expired on me. So yeah, sometimes you get those lemons when you're young, but these drivers currently driving what should be race cars, some of them starting to look like lemons, unfortunately, with how much damage they have accrued over the course of the race. We're going to get back to Go Racing here in just a moment. We are down to, it looks like 25 cars left. And here we go. Green flag is out. Gagaro Jr. still leading. Banfield has been wanting to try and take that away from him, but he's got to deal with Vrosky down to the inside, Joey.
Yeah, and they're still side by side up onto the back straightaway. Looks like Banfield will clear him for that second place position. So the first side by side is now the 52 of Kevin Hill and Travis Henderson right behind that. That's for the 4th place.
They fly back into 1 and 2. The 52 drifting up, and we get another yellow. Van Aken, and a bunch more coming into it. Robert Covey again, and Kinchlow. With that, we are going to take a short break here for myself, Joey, and Ozzy, but we do still have Craig and Robert to take you through for a brief moment.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody. Sorry, Craig. I have a absolute nightmare in terms of technology, but we're back. It's like 87 all over again, and it's been a hocus pocus of racing out here, Craig. You know, what are your thoughts coming up to past the halfway point?
Well, short track racing at the moment, we just start to see as some of the drivers are just trying to get around Kurt Van Aken, having to tow that car. I think that might be his day done. It is his day done. We've seen a lot of short track racing. That moment with Dallas earlier in the race was quite a surprise out there. Must be wondering what's going through his head. It does set up Ross Banfield for that championship now. It is still one race to go after this, but when you look at the point standings, anything can happen when it comes into this. So let's just hold on to wait and see what's going to happen. They are going to get ready to go green shortly. David Gargaro, as Joe mentioned, Rob, this is the first time he could win a top split race. So let's just have a quick replay, though, what happened there, because it was very chaotic.
Yeah, it's been a helter-skelter. Now we're looking at Lynn Kinchlow, who wanted to have a come and chat with us, but that is not the way that he wanted to chat to us. Spinning around on turn 1 through 2, you can see the 27 there as well, getting caught out, and that is the number 27 of Jacob Matterson. And that is the kind of thing that will wake you up. You don't even need your Weetabix.
No, you've got to be careful as well. That will wake you up. And a lot of the drivers, they have been trying to keep going. A short track race here, because the number of incidents that sometimes happen in short track racing, it's also a battle of attrition. Can you hold on? Verwayen comes around. He will take his lucky dog. Taking his lucky dog. I want to give a quick update. I was talking about the championships. We do have the pro. Other drivers in this split are racing for the silver and the bronze. We brought up Jason Waller earlier in the race with some of his fantastic restarts. He's currently leading that silver championship. With no Stuart Elder here today, his main battle is Joseph Homan, and he's doing really well in that. And in the bronze, it's all the Matt Gelder show at the moment, and he's able to get ahead of Mike Golightly. Those are the 4 names in the bottom 2 divisions to keep an eye out for if you're looking in that division.
Oh, yeah. Waller putting in the absolute gold star effort, and it is absolutely a gem to see him going out over there. Absolutely brilliant. Going to see if the lights come off for the lights this time by. Do I see them going off? I think I do. Indeed, they have. They've gone off. It is 1 to go. It's going to be 2 wide restarts. That evolved Gargaro Jr. car. And you could just see the Majors garage. We say garage, by the way, not garage. We say garage. As going into 3 and 4, Gargaro will have the leg up. He'll try and emulate Dallas Batasca's restarts, who've been very aggressive, trying to get a headway in. Immediately goes. Car wasn't even in the pit road before he went. Green flag racing back here. Gargaro Jr. going into 1 and 2. The 777 of Ross Banfield wanting to waste no time, getting ahead of Vavroski in 3rd. 2 wide down through the middle.
And Vavroski decided he was going to have a little tap there to Banfield, as Banfield wanted to close up the line there. He closed that line up and almost went around. That could have been a nervous moment there for the whole field, seeing P2 and P3 going around. And now, around the outside there, the 24, Travis Henderson, he's using the fresher tyres. You got to look at this. The 52 of Kevin Hill pitted later. That's 20 lap younger tyres there for Henderson, but he just gets it a bit too wide coming through 4.
Yeah, Kevin Hill trying not to do the oopsie daisies on the inside. That's the 24 of Travis Henderson around the outside, trying to edge it ever so close. 52 giving him no absolute room. Coming into the 3 tight turns, chuck the car in, try and get the power down as you come out, grease it up, off you go.
Look at it, he has that grip. He's able to keep that one line, and because of the fact they're not clear, Hill is unable to get on the throttle and take the line he wants to. And when they get off these corners, you can see the advantage belongs to the 24, but still side by side they go. And the interesting thing about this is there is Trevor Vavroski ahead. He is unable to take advantage of this. These 2 side by side are still catching up with the rest of the top 3.
Yeah, 41. Look at Kenneth Reader there, looking like a shark in the background. He's got the Jaws theme playing in his headphones as the 24 finally escapes the 52 going on the inside. 2 lanes opening up the 22 as well. The David H. Baker coming with Brennan's bread and saying today's the best time to send it in the bottom. P7 started 7, so he's kept good all the way through.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Hill, I think those tyres are now starting to complain a little bit. 20 lap older tyres, and it starts to show. Mind you, we talk about that as we see Kenneth Reader going a little bit wide. You've got to remember that Gargaro Jr. also pitted at the same time as Hill, and look at the difference in the driving styles there, because it has been able to keep those tyres fresher for Junior, but for Kevin Hill, it looks like he's starting to go backwards a little bit.
Yeah, Kevin, unfortunately, he's had to fight off the 24 for the last 4 or 5 laps. And now what's happened? The 24 has just said, ha, I've just got you now. The king has made the checkmate. And he'll be wanting to catch up to Trevor Vavroski up ahead of him. We're looking at the car number 22, the Baker, as I call them. I'm going to go with that. We'll call him the Baker. Brennan's Breaker. That's a type of bread in Ireland, if you're not aware. Looking at the group ahead of him, and then looking down further, Patrick Kopp. Poor Patrick Kopp. He's just in a sea of cars right ahead of him. He's looking ahead and wanting to make a move. That's Tom Dreiling, Robert Covey, Lynn Kinchelow ahead of him. He's not going to be able to make much of a move, is he?
Going a little bit wide there through 4, and Kopp's going to have to lose that hit. This is a battle within a battle, because they're trying to make their way through the lap traffic. It's not going well for that beaten up, unlucky 13 for Patrick Kopp, but with how they're having to go through traffic, does Dreiling have the ability to go around? Look how wide
the 72 is the 72 pitted. I'm sorry, folks, but the 72 almost got absolutely turned around. That is going to be the 72 of Robert Covey.
That is very well held, though, by Covey. He's able to hold on. He loses the position. These guys are at the back of the field, but they're still battling for these positions. He's able to hold on to that, and that is very crucial because he may lose some time, but he's still there. The green flag continues to run for these guys, but how much damage has that caused? Because that was a little bit of a tap there for Rob Covey.
Look at him. He's got the focused face on him. He had the coins in the background too. Good, lovely looking at those coins. Carl Berg on the inside. That is going to be on the inside of Grabowski, and just that wall looks. You see, Craig, I'm going to say this now. These walls, right? They look quite wide. Like it's 3 or 4 lanes, right? You know, practical, U.S. highway thing to do. What on earth would you think if you were to race these cars at full chat?
No, let's not, because as we were saying earlier, Joey was saying earlier, for these people, this is an old school racing. There's no safer barriers, there's no barriers, no tire barriers, nothing to give you a little bit of absorption into the hit. These are concrete. You hit these things, you're going to be having trouble, and you do not want to be hitting them. It's interesting that you actually see it opens up a little bit. There's a bit more runoff when you get to the banking, so it opens up a lane. No one's using that lane. I wonder why. No reason why. It's probably not the best way to go, but continues to hold on. Battle's still going on, though. It looks like, though, we do have Kevin Hill on board trying to catch up to Travis Henderson as the caution comes out.
Oh, that's the 43. The 43 is spinning in the background. That's Mike Golightly. And that is a strike to the nose. Ooh, that is a chop of the nose. If we could get a look at that, that's going to be Kevin Hill on your screens, but the caution is out. Trouble for the 43 as he gets turned in turn 1. I can tell you what exactly happened on your screens. 47 got into the back out of 43, turned him around, pitted.
But the key thing here, Rob, David Gagara Jr., the leader, hit the wreck. The wreck continued going on, and the leader has some damage from that. Will this cause him to get into the pit? Going to be interesting. Here is the replay right here. We did say it would go lightly, just making a move. And again, it's just one of those moments, just getting a little bit more speed. Maybe the car just came down there a little bit. Did Go Lightly come down a little bit? Did they both come into one another? And then as they start to come, here is Gargaro Jr. And I think that may have been a little bit of a roll down the hill. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that was, Golightly was trying to get back going again, and that is going to pose a bit of a problem for Gargaro. He's got a bit of a sore nose out of that one. That might need some Kleenex if he needs it. Blow his nose, get back out there. He has taken the Kleenex, otherwise known as a faster pair. You get one each per driver, and you only get the one. You have to make that last 400 laps. That's going to be a bit of a doozy, isn't it?
Bit of a doozy, but I'll tell you what, right now, that makes it in caution number 20, which, as far as I'm aware, being that we are in the America, we're in the America, we're in America, that means one more caution, and it is legal to drink. So I'm not condoning any alcohol drinking at the moment, but it just goes to show just the attrition out here today. They're on lap 244. It just goes to show how tough it is out there today.
Oh, be the Janies. It's absolutely helter-skelter. Track temperature, 100 Fahrenheit. That is hot.
It's very hot indeed, and the track has gotten warmer throughout the day. And I'll tell you what's very interesting. It was only a couple drivers taking into the pits there. Of course, Gagara Jr. had to pit. Ross Banfield followed him in. Trevor Vavosky and Travis Henderson all went into the pits there, which means the man with the oldest tyres, Patrick Cobb, to quote Joey, sorry Joey to steal your stuff, he is having some ice cream back out there again. And then also you've got Matt Gelder leading the charge out there. He last pitted lap 187. That is almost 60 laps ago.
I tell you, I could go for an ice cream right about now. With how hot it is out there, I could go for a few ice creams. I even had an ice cream today, and it rained today.
Well, I'll tell you who hasn't had time for an ice cream. Lynn Kinchlow has had 8 pit stops in 246 laps. He has had quite a number of pit stops out there. It's not been very handy for him today. They are getting 2 by 2 at the moment, Rob. They're getting ready for another green flag. This will be restart number 21.
The legal restart o'clock as they get ready to go. Looking at Grabowski, he'll be the one to pip Matt Gelder to the post in the car number 69. Nice. Into turn 4 they go. Gelder holds. He's changed his mind. That's the difference between all of the others. They go right across the line. Green flag, here we go.
Green flag, here we go. Patrick Kopp gets a little bit caught out by that with the way that goes. At the front, Matt Gelder holds on, and Grabowski is going to try and make a move himself. A lot of these drivers are on fresh tyres, and some are not, and you can see in the background some free wide going into the corner, and we may have a little wreck there. Carl Buck in the backfield just gets through around the outside, almost got put into the wall.
Squeeze central, sandwich o'clock, whatever term you'd need. Oh, that's the 69 going around. That's Matt Gelder facing the wrong way, and the caution is out.
More incident in the backfield as well. The number 8 getting spun around as well as everyone starts to check up. The drivers have gotten a little bit more aware of the checkups, but that's just caused an incident.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what's not causing an incident. Joe, you've come back with ice cream. Can I have some?
Maybe a little bit later. Yeah, Kenneth Reeder involved in this huge wreck, unfortunately, started by Gelder, who spun on his own up at the front. Another car that was mentioned was for Vian, who's back out there again and caught in another wreck, just absolutely banged around. He's trying to drive it back to pit lane, but the car is going extremely slowly, so I'm not sure if he'll be able to make it. Joey and Ozzy, of course, back with me once again. And we are under yellow, which has become a familiar feature of this one. In fact, Ryan can't even keep up with the pace car, it almost looks like, Joey.
Well, I mean, it's fitting, Joe. It's Halloween. He's back from the dead. It all makes sense out there now. But you're right. We are under yellow again. It's been a little bit of a long and tedious process to get here. Stephen Vervian, an even longer and tedious process now to get down onto pit road. But hopefully here, the last 150 laps are going to be cleaned up just a touch. We're going to get some awesome racing action, and I can't wait to see who actually wins this thing.
I thought you were going to say that he's creeping around the track, so it fits for Halloween. But I'm
thrilled.
Yeah. He is back into pit lane, and Ross Banfield is in second. Let's take another look at this wreck and see if maybe he goosed it too hard. Gelder was leading at the front. We haven't seen him up there a lot. No, he got some big help, and it was from a teammate of all people, sending him spinning in front of the pack. Never a good thing. Vervian got turned in a separate incident and just banged on left and right.
Just a little unfortunate. It's kind of the theme of the race so far, and I think if we're going to stick with themes and thriller, and we're going to have plenty of zombie cars out there. You guys were talking, what was it, Chump Car earlier, Lemons?
Yeah, lemons, whatnot. Lots of good themes, I'm sure, at this time of year, if there's any races held out there. Also, looks like Go Lightly and Van Aken are our latest that have retired. Vervian is still taking his repairs. Wolf Dietrich Holt, though, is back out on track, 72 laps down, but he is running and doing his best in that number 32. So, looks like the drivers have been dealing with the worst and putting their best into it up to this stage. We do still have 16 of them out on the lead lap. Grabowski, how about that? The Pontiac is leading. I'm assuming he took his spare car. Yes, he did. So he is back out on a fresh machine. Ross Banfield going to be starting to his outside. Now, Ross has had a lot more experience than Steven has at the start of the field. Will that change the dynamic here? Can he manage to overtake the 929? The 777 going to be watching carefully, and he does get a very good start. This box is in for Vrosky quite a bit at the bottom. Round the outside with the 777 with much fresher tires. Grabowski can't hold on.
And you got to be careful now if you're Grabowski, because you got Vrosky down to the inside. That's the number 10, and that black and green Pontiac, that number 929, he's just going to be hanging on right now. He has got the oldest tires, and everybody behind him is on much better stuff.
But look who's made it to the podium. David Gigaro Jr., after his incident with that one wreck from the lead, has found himself back in third. In fact, he might take second place away up there in front of this group that we're watching. He's challenging Vavrovsky.
Down underneath here in turn number 1 is that number 42. Gargaro is going to clear for that second place. So now he sets his sights on the leader just short ways up the road.
Does look like Grabowski is struggling at this stage already. It looks like Wallet is going to be able to easily overtake him here. This is something that I kind of figured we'd see more of as well with the differing strategies, Joey. We got the old NASCAR term, comers and goers.
Yeah, and right now the 929, I think he's actually faring quite well for how old his tires are compared to everybody else around him. When that plateau is going to fall off, we have yet to see, but I think as long as he can hang out in the top 10 or so, I would consider this a win.
Yeah, we'll see, though. If we keep going green, might be difficult for him. And Grabowski, I think, disappeared on my screen, so he might be having connection issues, making matters even worse for him in all the close racing. Back to the man that doesn't like to get fresh tires, Patrick Kopp, here in 13th position in the number 13, trying to see if he can catch up to Homan and maybe try to preserve those tires as he is riding very high, but it looks like he's going to lose a spot down out to Schut.
And then Gelder is right there as well. You mentioned running way up top on the racetrack. He loses a ton of ground right in the middle of the corner, but then is able to hold steady going down the straightaway. So I wonder if the 13, and you see him all the way up into the wall almost there in turn number 1 and 2 as we watch now David Baker battling for 8th.
Baker going to be working hard for this one as they're going to go back to single file. I'm looking up at the front as well, Ozzy, and I mentioned Gagaro Jr. has worked his way to the front, but now we've got a bit of a reverse situation. Oh, and we get a caution. Robert Covey is now off, but I was going to say, Ozzy, that now it's Gagaro trying to chase Banfield instead.
Yeah, and did you by chance happen to have your stroke of luck there, Joe?
Yeah. Hold on, I need to take my medicine.
Yeah.
We go slow once again here, and Banfield gets the ring of the bell to save him. Gagaro Jr. did not have enough time to try and attack, although he was quickly gaining on him. So did Covey wreck himself? He did not. The 69 of Gelder, who has caused the last big wreck, caused this one.
Well, I'd say he did. I'd say he did, just running to the side of another car and not really turning in as tight as he probably could have. So, I mean, technically it was a two-car incident practically. Yeah, from my point of view, I'm not a steward, he wrecked himself.
Yeah, I put that a little bit on the car outside there, turning down to the inside. But Banfield here in the 777, going to have to let go our lucky dog. That's Hakan Schut, who gets back onto the lead lap. Covey is actually the next one to inherit it if things stay as they are, interestingly. We'll see if that 72 can return to that. And for those curious, we are now past the halfway mark of the timing as well. Less than 2 hours left on the clock, but we're down to about 136 laps to go, 137 laps to go. So we're getting closer to the end. This has got to be grueling inside the car as well, Joey. All these drivers have had this. I mean, I'd say without respite. They've had all the cautions, but I mean, it feels like I don't think they've had much time to relax.
No, and think about what that does to your psyche, your mental state, is that you get frustrated. It's not you causing the cautions, or hopefully it's not you causing the cautions, and hopefully you're not involved in any of them, but you still get frustrated out there. Why can't we go racing? Why can't we do what we've been practicing for all these weeks now? So you have to stay calm. You have to keep a level head, whether you're the one getting wrecked, whether you're the one being the aggressor, or you're just sitting there turning pace laps. You have to keep a level head, and when the time comes to go green flag racing, you just have to execute, but it's a lot more difficult than really how it sounds.
Certainly, and the drivers are going to be feeling it here, because remember, they can't get up and leave the rig, really. You got to stay sitting there for this entire time. As Gagaro Jr. back up to second place, but we got to remember, he's now taken his spare car. He has no bullets left in the chamber if something happens to him. then he is out of luck and he has to visit pit lane, take some extensive repairs. Let's see what he does on the restart. Will he play it safe because of that in comparison to Banfield, or is he going to continue to try and be the aggressor and see if he can take it around the outside? Maybe he can even cut back. We'll see. Could be a number of ways to do it as the pace car is in and the green flag is out. David Gargaro Jr. does get a decent start, but down his inside, Trevor Vrosky's going to try and get underneath the number 42. That's going to make life a little bit more difficult as well. It's not a battle for the lead, it's a battle for second.
Oh, and the number 10 got so close to that quarter panel of Gargaro Jr. trying to sneak up the inside, but here goes David putting the power down. He's able to clear the number 10 car going into turn 1. So now it's going to be the number 24 car. That's the car that's looking on the top side of the racetrack too wide.
As we look out the rear window of our leader in the race, the 52 of Hill also in the background is side by side in a battle with Jason Wallet. Got to give a lot of credit to Jason. Like we said, he's been just kind of quietly picking his way forward, hasn't really been involved in a lot of incidents, wasn't up at the front of the field for early in the race, but now the 658 is trying to crack the top 5, can't quite get there yet. He falls back off of the 52.
Well, look at what everything the drivers have dealt with. You were talking about it under yellows, that you just got to stay on the lead lap. As long as you can stay in the race here, I think you've got a shot, and you've still got 130 laps left to keep doing it.
Flying through 3 and 4 once again. Gargaro Jr. back in a second. The two of them starting to run away from Trevor Vrosky here. Top 2 using the speed to stretch their legs out. But will Gargaro be able to try and challenge, or will he sit tight and just let this race play out?
And remember, these two drivers, they both qualified inside of the top 3. Ross Banfield qualified 3rd. David Gargaro Jr. 2nd. So we really are not only looking at some of the best race cars on display today, but some of the best raw speed.
Absolutely. So these two really finally getting to show what they can do over the rest of the field. Not a huge gap, mind you, but enough that it looks like they are making a difference up there in the background. A little bit more of an attempt by the car of David Baker on Jason Wallet, but Wallet holds on to 6, though he is still running way up high there, Ozzy. That 658 car definitely trying to stay, I think, a lane up from a lot of his rivals.
Yeah, I wonder if his car is set up in that way or if he's just more comfortable in that line, but you can see his entry there. He's not even trying that bottom line. And you can't see it very well in the cameras, but there is a bit of an apron on that bottom lane. It sort of evens out the banking, and we've seen a couple of cars who have gone there, have been really having a hard time controlling themselves. So maybe Jason feels it's a more consistent line. It's a line he can run. It may not be the fastest line on pure raw pace around the track, but it is a good line for him, and we see him being challenged by David Baker there, running the shorter line on the inside. Now, he's able to get the runs on the entry of the corner, being able to take that shorter line, but as you can see, when the straight opens up, Jason is pulling away, and now he is having to defend his position from Kenneth Reeder and from Tom Dreiling as well, who are joining into the mix.
That's his teammate starting to approach on the back, watching from Dreiling, not a teammate of these two. There in the number 26, looking like, oh, we get another caution. Matt Gelder again involved in this one. After leading the race briefly, it's been kind of downhill for him, and I think he got some help from Madison to turn him around this time, though.
And unfortunately, your beloved Pontiac got caught up in it as well. So watch the 69. He's going to get help from the 27 here, and as they go spinning down into the corner, that black and green Pontiac gets a piece of it too.
Yeah, Grabowski with a massive run into the wall. He's actually back up to speed already, but he has used the free repair, remember, so not much he's going to be able to do if he has to visit pit lane this time. Doesn't have a black and orange flag. These are pretty hardy machines, these old cars, but I'd be curious to see how it handles as we look at Gargaro Jr. So he and Banfield get slowed up. The rest of the field will be able to latch onto the back of them once more. But now what's this going to do for things? We only have one car that has been on a massive run. No, we've got a couple, actually, that have been on a massive run on tires. Patrick Kopp has been out for 118 laps. He's only taken 2 pit stops in this whole race. But then we've also got a couple others that have been out for some time. Gelder was one of them. Well, that changed because now he's down in pit lane. Madison, the other, at 56 laps. Scott Kukas, who is currently 2 laps down from leaders. He's been out for 77 laps, probably trying to stay out and hope that he can get his lap back the old-fashioned way.
I think that's exactly the strategy there. And unfortunately, with all the yellows, just the leaders aren't pitting. You know, there's no need to come in. You just lose track position at that point. You come in and you put yourself back in that scrum. You don't want to be back there into that mess. So it's tough to get your lap back today. If you are 1 lap down, you can get that lucky dog, but anytime you are further than that, it is tough.
So let's see if we get anybody else in. Rob Courtney also pitting. I see Michael Hogg down on the lane. So a few drivers going to use this opportunity to stop for the time being. Kind of curious. You know, one thing that I will have to check, because I wouldn't put it past iRacing, Joey, is we keep seeing these aerial shots of the area. Remember, they did a lot of work to match the 1987 look of this track. I mean, down to signage, everything. They researched tons of photos. I wonder if they actually looked at aerial photos and made sure that the surrounding area also is in the same configuration.
I wouldn't be surprised, and I think it is super cool. You look at the grandstands, even you look at the pop-up tents, everything, all the blow-up signage and whatnot. It is all period correct, really. So it's pretty cool to see. In terms of the landscaping, I wouldn't doubt if they were able to kind of redraw some of what they saw from photography and whatnot. But you're right, it's really neat. It is a throwback. I think the only thing that's out of place is probably the pace car out there. But even the Winnebagos, look at them. They're all kind of old school.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that too. As soon as they released the track, and I looked at those and was like, wow, that is time period accurate. I remember seeing those as a kid. But here we go. We're going to restart once again. Banfield versus Gagaro Jr. Pace car is in and the green flag is out. Looks like Gagaro Jr. yet again is going to have to deal with Vavrovsky to his inside. He tries to chop down, but no dice. That number 10 is there.
And here we go off onto that back straightaway. A little bit of side-by-side for that 4th place. But you're right, Ross Banfield has got these restarts figured out. He's able to defend that lead, and Gargaro Jr. and him, they've got the raw paces. We see him start to even stretch it out on lap 2 of the restart.
Anderson versus Hill. They're racing for the 4th position. Hill with a nose ahead briefly down the back stretch, but it goes back to the 24, breaking deep into 3 and 4. Can he carry it off the corner is the question. That's a big yes, but they're going to get paused because Gelder's involved in another accident, this time in turn 4.
Yeah, and he's all by himself on this one. I will say that the 27 of Madison is right in front of him, and if you remember, the 27 is who turned him last time. I don't think that he's trying to get to the bumper, but certainly spins by himself going too fast.
Really unfortunate that things have just kind of gone wayward for him since he was leading this race. He had a great opportunity, but seems to have slipped through his fingers at this stage. I think drivers are feeling the weariness, I imagine, of this race now at this stage. I was talking about Covey getting back on the lead lap. Well, he has. The 72 is back at the front now. Well, not at the front, but back on the lead lap. He is currently sitting 16th position and can now try and focus forward instead of just trying to see if he can game the system to get back on it. Patrick Kopp up to lap 126 now on that set of tires, and more importantly on this the tank of fuel. I mean, what we've seen from Patrick, I'm pretty sure that he's going to try and run that bone dry.
I mean, it's a guessing game for us. I want to guess with Ozzy, because at this point, Patrick Kopp, he's done this a couple times. What do you think? 140? 150? What's your number guess, Ozzy?
I think Ozzy had to step away for just a brief second, but yeah, I think 150 is probably doable, especially with how many cautions we've had. But we did have a good run of green flag laps, so that should shorten it some. When will he finally give it up and come in and take that fuel? Wolf Dietrich Hotto has 3 laps to go to get up to 24th, and then he has to go another 17 laps before he gets 23rd. That guy gets my Dory Award of the day. Just keeps swimming and tries to pick up what he can. We've lost Medina, Cardamone, Pataska, Van Aken, and Go Lightly. Amazingly, for Vian, I've lost count of how many major wrecks he's been involved in. That guy is still out there, 41 laps down from the lead and running in 22nd.
The Thriller Mobile, right? Halloween, zombie back from the dead. He's getting it done. 22nd, yeah, 41 laps down. So I guess he could keep chugging along a ways and theoretically keep collecting points if there's other DNFs for about another 50 laps or so.
Here's our leader running in the 777, the Udox car. They tend to try and get those 80s paint schemes, and these are the cars that it's the most appropriate for. Well, he takes off down towards turn 1 as the green flag is out once again. The car of Vrosky makes life difficult for Gagaro Jr. He wants that second place. He has to work hard to keep that number 10 from overtaking him, and he's able to do it this time around. Into turn 3, once again, past the Pontiac balloon they fly.
Yeah, and coming out onto that start-finish straightaway, it's Ross Banfield leading David Gargaro Jr., Trevor Vrosky, your top 3 right now. A little bit of side-by-side between Kevin Hill, Travis Henderson, as well as some of these on another yellow flag out there.
Ooh, it was Robert Covey, and I don't know if this is our first victim for the incident limit, but I suspect it is one of the early ones. He disappears in a puff of smoke after being involved in an incident with the number 8, who shockingly has not hit the incident limit.
I thought we were going to run into this at some point. Unfortunately, Robert Covey seems to be the first victim of it. And I'm going to throw in my guess into the hat here, Joe. I'm going to go 151 laps is what Patrick Kopp can make it.
So here's the incident. And Covey is going to blip off of the screen. That is what happens when you get too many incidents. For those that don't know, in iRacing, essentially, once you, that we mentioned earlier, it was 40 incidents. When you have car contact, that's 4 incident points. When you spin the car, that's 2 incident points. And if you go off the track into the grass, which is a little bit more difficult to do here, but possible, that's 1 incident. So you also get 2 incidents for hitting the wall, which I think has probably also been quite common here today. We've already hit 40 for at least Robert Covey, so he will tumble down the order, and Vervian and Dietrich Hotho will eventually overtake him out there today. Kind of impressive that we still have 16 cars on the lead lap. I'm sure the cautions have helped that with the lucky dog. In fact, I think Matt Kelder just got it that time.
Honestly, 16 cars, what I'm more impressed with is I think we started with 28, and I'm counting about 23 or so, maybe 22 still running. So despite the 16 on the lead lap, there's several cars that are just kind of out there chugging along, trying to collect points.
Yeah, absolutely. It's late in the season. I'm pretty sure that's the case for a number of drivers wanting to just do what they can here to get what they can, because it is a smaller field than we typically see often, especially in these stock car races here on the majors. Usually the fields are packed for these, but not this time. And this is giving them chances to maybe get a few more than they typically would, as we watch Michael Hogg get back into line here. And we are not lights out yet, so we do still have another lap around to go.
See who kind of is going to take charge of this race. We've had a few different leaders, and I would say in the last big chunk of it, it's really been Ross Banfield and David Gargaro Jr. These 2 cars right here. It was Dallas Pataska earlier in the race. He really dominated, but ever since he had his retirement, it has been up to these two. Is anybody else going to throw their name into the mix today?
Well, we've seen guys like Pataska have to retire. He was quick earlier today. We've seen drivers like Kinchlow, who was quick, have lots of problems. Will these two be able to avoid that? We'll see. Green flag is out. The 777 of Ross Banfield is getting pretty good at these restarts from the lead. Gagaro Jr. has also figured out pretty much how to keep Vrosky from overtaking him on that outside line, as they mostly get single file quite quickly here. Up around the outside, Travis Henderson goes way high up.
Transmission builders are going to have their work cut out for them, tearing it down after all of these restarts we've had today, but it still continues to be Banfield out front. I think that actually the 10 of Trevor Vrosky, that car in third place right now, he's showing a little bit more early speed on this restart. Could he be that one that I was mentioning, go up there and challenge for the lead?
That could be a real possibility here, but oof, big battle here in the back. This is between the likes of Kenneth Reeder and Jason Wallet for the 7th position. They get slowed down again before they can settle it, though. This time, Grabowski with a car that is looking quite secondhand.
And I think that this one was all by himself coming up out of turn number 2, and actually had quite a few close calls of cars going around him, but I think this was a single car incident.
Let's take a look, see if we can find out, but he falls a lap down from that one. Car isn't smoking. Oh man, never mind. The car already looked like it apparently. I thought the damage was from the wreck, missing that distinctive Grand Prix front. Spins it around and then tries to get going. Nope, doesn't hit a thing.
Is that a little bit more reminiscent of your Pontiac, Joe?
Absolutely. Remember, I was having that debate with Ozzy earlier. I believe by the time that I left high school, only 2 of the windows could roll up because it was all electronic. And, well, 80s electronics in the early 2000s. I'll let you take a guess how those worked.
I love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic going down memory lane as we are officially now past 3/4 distance on this race. And I think we will do the lap count versus the amount of time left, but it's going to be relatively close still.
Sounds like we're hearing that we have counted 26 cautions up to this point. Actually, let's see if we could send the Peanut Gallery out to do some research. What is the most cautions that we've ever had in the real world in a NASCAR race? And are we getting close to that here? Because this is a lot of yellows that we have racked up so far in this race. I actually did try and see if I could get ahead of, get a hold of Mike Roulette and find out how many cautions we had in the Rockingham race many years ago. So I think that does hold one of the records of most yellows we've had in majors races. And he didn't have a number for me. All he just replied was a lot.
It can happen. Short tracks, this is what happens. I mean, Joe, you've got plenty of experience at short tracks, and you know that yellows, it's just kind of a thing of racing. Some nights it's really clean and you don't have any. Some days it's just a melting pot and it boils over immediately. I think when you put cars such as this caliber on a track like this, everybody has to understand what's going on. Not everybody, like we were mentioning earlier, experiences these old cars on ovals all the time. So I just think it's a little bit of a curveball, and unfortunately, it's just a little bit of a messy day too.
Certainly looking like it, but maybe it'll clean up as we go along. We're now down to 23 cars left out racing, it appears. So it's dwindling from our 28 starters, who will actually get to see the checkered flag of this 400-lap race. Can Banfield continue to hold off Gagaro Jr.? Will they get the laps to actually battle it out? Green flag is out to decide that. And this time, oh, maybe we could see a chop down from Gagaro Jr. No, still can't seem to cover the inside in time down to turn 1. Behind them, the teammates of Vrosky and Henderson slot as they were on the restart. They've also got more teammates behind them. They're sandwiching Kevin Hill currently, because they've got David Baker and Kenneth Reeder. It's a good day for that team.
Yeah, all these blue and silver cars, they're kind of working their way up towards the front, whether it be attrition from everybody else, or maybe this is just kind of how they migrate to the front a little bit further back, or I should say further forward in the race. But it's working out as we watch David Gargaro Jr. have a big wiggle off of turn number 4.
Yeah, it's the Grizzly TFR Daytona team that we see racing up there and showing a huge presence. The Grizzly team traditionally has been very strong on the ovals, and they're showing it here today. Although it took a little bit late in the race, but again, you only have to lead that last lap. They'll have to be up at the front the entire time. But Gargaro Jr. is leading ahead of everybody except for Banfield as we watched out of his rear window, Joey.
Yeah, and it looks like right now Gargaro Jr. has his mirrors filled, although Vrosky in that 10 car, he just had a big wiggle coming up out of turn number 4. So it looks like he's going to have to keep his visor down, keep charging forward to David Gargaro Jr. and see if he can maybe hunt down that lead a little bit. As Ozzy, it looks like we've got you back.
Yes, we got me back, and I tagged out Matt Cho just on his way out of the door. It's going to be just you and me for the rest of the race. How wonderful.
Well, I like this vibe that I'm feeling now. It's like we got a different mix out on the racetrack. We got a little bit of a different mix in the commentary booth. Wouldn't it be something else if it just ran green flag as soon as Joe Peak had to leave?
Wouldn't that be quite something? Sadly, I don't think that's going to be the case, but we are well into a good green flag stint now. And we got an excellent race for the lead as well between Banfield and Gargaro Jr. Of course, not forgetting the fights for 4th and 5th, with Hill just passing Henderson now, and Henderson passing him back, so it's a great fight. A little bit further back in the field. Now, going back to that trivia, I mentioned earlier about 1987 and the real Holly Farms 400 that ran that year. Guess how many cars finished on the lead lap back in 1987?
If I was going to guess 87, I'm probably going to say like 8 to 10.
2.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So 2 cars finishing on the lead lap back then, Terry Labonte and Dale Earnhardt. Everyone else at least 1 lap down.
You know, I was always a big fan of Mark Martin back in the days of those 87, 88s and the Stroh's Lights cars out there. So always pretty cool to see the kind of the nostalgic livery as we watch the 52 of Kevin Hill. He finally clears the 10 of Trevor Vavrosky. Remember, I was making the comment that I thought maybe the 10 car had a little bit of speed to go up there and fight the leaders. Well, looks like that might have stalled out a little bit, but Kevin Hill in that black and green 52, he might try to take the charge up towards the front.
Oh, definitely. You can see Kevin Hill there, just 1.7 seconds off from our lead. Everybody in roughly equally old tires at this moment in time as well. The freshest pieces of rubber in Carl Berg's and Joseph Homan's cars, with only 14 laps down on their stint. Jacob Madison and Patrick Kopp as well, with relatively new tires. So it's going to be interesting to see how those guys go on going forward. I'm predicting 1 more stop is needed from here on to the line, but when will those guys make it? That's going to be a whole different matter. It's not going to be too long from here. They can pretty much, it's going to be 83 to go next time around, and if they can stretch it some 5 more laps or so, they're going to be more or less taking it even 80 lap stints from here on to the end, provided it stays green. But look at Gargaro, he's like constantly, he wants to look to the inside, Joey.
And that makes sense. Your fuel calculations, we've got about 70 laps remaining here in this, and they're on 75 laps on their stint. I'm sorry, about 80 laps remaining here. My mom would be very disappointed in my math right now. But you're right, Gargaro Jr., I think, is showing a little bit more speed. These 2 cars are dead even on their tire wear, so they should have the same amount of stuff. But unfortunately, Mike Hurst did not come through. We've got a yellow flag on the racetrack. I believe this one might be Steven Grabowski. Another one of those black and green Pontiacs, I should say the only black and green Pontiac. Unfortunately having some issues in turn number 3 this time, Ozzy.
Yeah, Grabowski, and here we can see what happened. Already missing the front of that car and just getting loose on the entry. What that happens so easily with these cars when the car just doesn't want to turn in initially into the corner on the first phase, and then you sort of yank the steering wheel a little bit harder, the back end snaps out, and you just lose the grip in the back end. That happens easily with the old tires, but here you can see the more or less the entire field coming to the pit lane, apart from a little bit further back when you see some fake pits getting into the picture. And I'm predicting those guys are gonna be Carberg, Joseph Holman, who are gonna run around these guys and get into the front end of the field. And why not? Their tires are only 20 laps old.
Yeah, I think that that's a decent strategy, right? With how many yellows that we've had throughout today, why not stay out? Because I think that you can make it to the end of the race. We saw, I believe it was Kopp make it 130 some laps earlier on a tank. So you can definitely make it to the end of the race if you've only got 20 laps or so on your current fuel stand, at least if we continue to have these yellow flags. And unfortunately, it sounded like the number 929, Steven Grabowski, officially has that incident limit. So we will no longer see the Pontiac out on the racetrack. And model earlier, about 98 in Philly, didn't have where the majors here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Sorry, we just had a little bit of a technical issue there, Ozzy, but we are back, and it looks like the lights are out on the pace car, so we will be getting back to going green flag racing. We are on lap number 324 currently, coming up to start lap number 325 as soon as Barney pulls out that green flag, and it's actually a little bit of a different restart. It's the 503 of Carl Burke and Joseph Homan in the 222 that stand on that loud pedal and going to get this race underway here. Looks like the 503 is going to hang out on the bottom side. Homan is going to hang out on that top lane, but it's all going to be the 503 on the bottom continuing to lead this race right now, Ozzy.
Yep. It's great to see a good, clean restart out there as they're trying to fan out the two wides and try to make that two wide into a single file, I should say, getting back in the order of the running in this race, Joey. And I just hope that me talking all about 2002 and 2003 didn't also make our internet revert back to that moment in time.
You know, I'm hearing those dial-up noises in the background right now, and I think I've got some mail as well, but it continues to be actually, you know what? Carl Burke has already been overtaken on the racetrack. We're going to get back to the live images, and it's the 777 of Ross Banfield has gotten back into the lead, and really, the 503 of Carl Burke is falling fast.
Oh, and that's the 24 around as well. That is the 24 of Travis Henderson that was just punted around, and the yellow flag is out as a result. And I think David Baker took also a hit in that one, but Travis Henderson, who ran sort of close to the lead for a long time in his Grizzly TFR Daytona machine, punted around, and we'll see a replay of that very soon. Oh, we won't see a replay of that one, but yeah, just punted around. Seemed like the type of incident we've seen so many times before today, Joey.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the 24 just kind of drifted up the racetrack and had one of those lazy spins. Like you were saying, we've seen so many of them go and happen earlier on today. And I think we're going to see plenty more of these lazy spins a little bit earlier. We saw the 24 also hit pit road after that. So he's going to take the opportunity to get the fresh tires, get whatever fixed up onto that race car and get back out on to this race. And I'm counting about 15 cars right now still on the lead lap, Ozzy. So it's one of these races of attrition. If you continue on and you can stay on the lead lap, it seems like you're going to score some good points.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so important to keep that nose clean, to keep the car in relatively good shape. A little bit of aerodynamic damage, for example, doesn't really do much for these cars, for example, or doesn't do much to hurt these cars because it is a short track. You don't really gain much in terms of high speeds. You don't have much high speed. So if you have some damage, you're going to be fine running at least within a couple of tenths of the leader's pace. So just keep your nose clean, focus on what you're doing, and you're going to get a great result. Now, since it has been such a fractured race in terms of all the yellows, then that means pit strategy is going to be very important. Now, we are seeing some drivers who have, most of the drivers have pitted relatively recently, but I wonder if somebody still has tires left, fresh tires left, if they're gonna risk it with, say, 20 or 30 laps to go and try to make that mad charge up the field, because it is a race of attrition. You mentioned around 15, 16, 17 cars on lead lap. You can pass all of those in 20 laps if you want to, with a fresh set of rubber.
Yeah, you can. The fresh rubber is worth a ton here on this racetrack, but I'm looking, and actually the top 4 are on pretty fresh stuff, only 11 laps on their tires right now. So with all of these yellow flag laps mixed in there, you could pretty much call them as fresh as you can get them. As looks like we are going to get our lights out on the pace car. All 15 of the lead lap cars will get lined up side by side. We'll have a few stragglers there at the end. But it's back to the 777 of Ross Banfield. He is going to be in control of this restart, as he has been so many times earlier today. He's got the 52 of Kevin Hill on the outside of him. That is the only change, really. David Gargaro Jr. will be lined up right behind Ross, as the 777 already on the gas and up through the gears gets a tremendous jump, and that actually opens the door for David Gargaro Jr. on the low side of Kevin Hill. They are side by side exiting turn number 2, but I would say that Gargaro Jr. on the low side has the advantage of the track position. That's where you want to be.
Absolutely, and let's see what Wabrowski is able to do in that number 10. Now running to the inside of Kevin Hill, but losing back. Kevin Hill with a great charge up from the middle lane into the bottom lane, just lifting off very late, into the brakes very late, and able to grab that track position. And look at who's in 5th position. That is Carberg, a car we saw around quite a few times early on in this event. Well, he's got a relatively fresh set of tires, and he is on a mission right now. Meanwhile, Joseph Holman there in the pictures in the 222 machine, trying and fighting it out with Dreiling, and that's going to be one car dropping further back. A little bit of contact there, Joey.
That was Kenneth Reeder, and I'm not sure if there was contact or not, but he actually did a tremendous...
Oh, 242 around.
That's Scott Kukas coming out of turn number 4, just as you were calling it, Ozzy. But I had my eye on that number 41. He had a tremendous save coming up out of turn number 2 there. So props to Kenneth Reeder in that number 41 for keeping it pointed the right direction. And then unfortunately, just a short time later, that 242 had that incident. And now we have the 27, Jacob Madison is stopped on the racetrack. I'm not quite sure what happened here. Ozzy, did you catch any of this one?
Not at all. So interesting. And Madison is gonna drop also behind the pace car now. So gonna lose a lap as a result of that little incident. I wonder what happened there, whether he just stopped to the side of the track, maybe trying to fix a hardware issue he was having, could be one of the reasons whatever the case, very, very much an unfortunate situation that he now drops a lap back as a result of that. But, well, happens in racing oftentimes, and here is Henderson now and Kenneth Reeder coming into the pit lane and changing a brand new set of tires with 61 laps to go. Yes, I can count.
I want to bring in one of the drivers earlier in this race. Robert Covey is going to be joining us here in the booth. Unfortunately, it's not under the best circumstances, already retired from the race. What was it like out there today?
Chaos. You know, I'm biting my tongue as much as I can. I don't want to say too much because it's just, it's a real disappointment. The standard of driving of some of this. A lot of these guys, I don't know, they're trying to drive them like a gen car and diving them into the corners, and just, you know, you can't drive these cars that way. They don't like it.
Now, from your experience out there, how did you like driving these 87 cars on North Wilkesboro? I mean, this is kind of a classic combination, and now not talking about the race itself, but just the car and track combo. How did you enjoy it?
At first, I was kind of leery about it because, I mean, the 87s are so heavy. They're so hard to slow them down on a short track. But I mean, I was having fun. I mean, I had a strategy laid out. It was kind of working out. I managed to get back on the lead lap. But just, you know, some really aggressive driving out there by some of the lapped cars, some really aggressive driving overall in these cars. And I mean, like I said, I mean, you can't drive these like a next gen, especially on short track, because you hit those brakes. The car doesn't want to slow down. It just wants to slide up the track.
So, after experiencing what it looks like about 291 laps of racing here today in these 87s, what was the most challenging thing that you ran into? I know that there's been a lot of incidents, whether getting run over or wrecks maybe in front of you. What do you think was the most challenging part of the race for you?
Most challenging for me was just the aggression. Aggression from lapped cars. You know, again, I'm trying to bite my tongue a little bit, but I mean, just about every one of my spins where I got spun around was a car that was lapped down from me, and it just, the aggression from the drivers is just really surprising to me. I don't even know how else to put it without, you know, throwing some people under the bus or getting some people angry at me. I think we're going green here again too.
Yeah, no, I really do appreciate the interview and taking the time to come up here. I know that short track racing can be extremely frustrating out there, especially if your day is ended early. But thank you very much for coming up and speaking with us, Robert.
Yeah, anytime. Enjoy the rest of the race. I'm sure there's some really good racing still to go yet.
That was Robert Covey. He was driving the number 72 car earlier, unfortunately had the incident limit, so now retired from this race. Maybe we'll get to talk with him a little bit later as well, depending on how it all goes. But approaching about 50 laps remaining, just over 50 laps remaining here in this 400-lap majors race. Ross Banfield continues to lead the way, but it is the very, very familiar sight of that number 42, that black and green car of David Gargaro Jr. He is all over that back wing.
He absolutely is. You can just see the 42 there biding his time, waiting. I think biting his tongue a little bit as well, and we're seeing a great battle here. Oh, and the yellow flag is out, and that is number 26 for today, unless my maths are wrong, and that is Kenneth Reeder around in his relatively fresh tires. So I wonder if he had a little bit of a helping hand with that one.
I think the 41 here was trying to get underneath the 101 car of Håkan Schott and just was 3 wide, Ozzy, and I don't blame the 41. I think that he did the right thing here. He didn't take out the 101 by any means, but 2 wide is tough enough around North Wilkesboro. Trying to put the power down and keep the car pinched so far to the inside, it's tough.
It is tough, especially as that middle lane sort of extend the corner is where a lot of the dirt is going to be. While we've had a lot of 2 wide running after the restarts, not many people go that far down to the inside, extend the corner, so maybe the lack of grip surprised him. Maybe there was a slight bit of bump on the track as well. bit of elevation change on the surface. All of that could have contributed to him spinning around, but whatever the case, he spun around. Thankfully, no damage sustained, and he's able to get back going. So we had numerous reports on the amount of calculations, amount of cautions rather, ranging from 26 to 31 today. I think we need help from Count One Count here, Joey.
You're not going to get that out of me.
Come on.
No, but kind of how I was looking at it is, looks like we're going to get a replay of Wolf Dietrich Otto making a little spin, a little lazy spin out of turn number 4. We've seen it so often here this race. But what I was going to say, Ozzy, is I think we are past 1 caution per entry on the entry list.
That is true. So more or less everybody can look at least a little bit in the mirror. On average, a single driver has caused more than a single caution. We have 50 laps remaining on this race, and I do hope it's gonna be green flag running up until the end. And we've seen flashes of brilliance from these guys as well. It hasn't all been doom and gloom, but I completely understand why Robert Covey said he had to bite his tongue, because as a driver, it's incredibly frustrating, especially seeing some of the same drivers doing the same mistakes over and over and over again, and people as well throughout the field not really learning from their mistakes, unable to adapt to the conditions and the requirements of the race at hand. And when your flow is constantly broken up by a restart after restart, a yellow after yellow, and you get caught up in some of those incidents as well through none of your own fault, it can be very frustrating, and I totally get the frustration as a former driver myself. But let's hope we get back into some good green flag racing here on this upcoming restart.
Let's see if the 777 gets the jump, as he always has been all day today, but we are already yellow flag on the racetrack. That one was a bit unfortunate. That was just a car spun around on the front straightaway. Is that what I saw here, Ozzy?
Exiting turn 4, Patrick Kopp, number 13. Is he going to get help from the 503? Yes, he will. So the 503, Carberg just ran into the back of Patrick Kopp. And this time they didn't even make it to the start-finish line. And I'm sorry, that was a bit silly.
Yeah, now Patrick Kopp is unfortunately disqualified. I believe he hit the incident limit from that. So a bit unfortunate, you know. You can definitely get a little sloppy here in the races, and unfortunately that 503, he probably had plenty of incidents himself earlier, so I can't say that, he was taken out of the race per se, but a little bit unfortunate for sure.
Yeah, definitely so, especially the 13th final incident was none of his fault, but whatever the case, he is no longer going in this race, and we see a replay here as well of Jason Wallet and what happened to him in the restart. The 658 running the high line and staying in the high line, just stopping the car next to the wall and then getting back going. I wonder if there was once again an adjustment needing to be made, or something else that happened. Whatever the case, interesting shenanigans from the 658, who is still thankfully on the lead lap after that one in 7th position. Jason Wallet, who I believe also is the current, or at least the former, captain of iRacing Club New Jersey.
Yeah, that's interesting little fact. I did not know that one, but looks like the laps are continuing to tick down. And Ozzy, I would say that the sand in the hourglass, like, we can officially see it, because even at 42-second pace car laps with about 45 laps remaining, we are under 40 minutes in this race. So we can see light at the end of the tunnel. It's just up to these drivers on the racetrack on how much green flag action we are going to get out there. The lights are still on the pace car. And I'm noticing the top 10 cars all on the same strategy in terms of the life on their tires. I'm sorry, the top 9 cars. The car in 10th place, Travis Henderson, that number 24 car, he's actually got a little bit fresher stuff. About half is fresh new tires compared to everybody else.
Well, you know, Joey, seeing light at the end of the tunnel just usually means there's a train coming.
Yeah, that's true. Are we about to get hit?
I mean, we've been hit by quite a few cautions, so why not? That would complete the day. In an absolutely fitting fashion. Regardless, let's go back to the upcoming restart. They are already standing 2 wide with Banfield and Gargaro leading the field from Hill, Wawrowski, Kinchlow, and Dreiling.
And we are officially dropping cars now that aren't on the lead lap. You know, Wolf Dietrich Hoto is still out there, 84 laps down. Vervayan is still out there, same with Madison. But those are the only 3 cars that aren't on the lead lap as Ross Banfield sees that green flag one more time. We are racing here at North Wilkesboro. David Gargaro Jr. tucks right immediately to that bottom groove, and oh my goodness, put another bottle of beer on the wall. Another yellow flag.
Yep, and I've officially lost count because at this moment, even the excellent Finnish school system isn't gonna allow me to count numbers as high as this one. They almost seem imaginary. No, but in all honesty, we are at 33 right now, and the age-old saying is coming true. Cautions, they do indeed breed cautions, and that happens so easily. We saw it in the middle part of the race as well, and it's gonna be Joseph Homan in the 222 machine. And what's gonna happen here is gonna be, oh no, just losing it on the inside. I think there might have been a tiny bit of side-by-side contact, not quite sure, but losing it on the inside in a very sudden fashion with cold tires after a restart, that can happen so easily. And just another unfortunate incident, this time really unfortunate. Wasn't really anyone's fault, just car spinning around it.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. The 222 had fresh tires on that restart, so maybe just tried to jump on the gas maybe too aggressively. Maybe spun the thing around on the brakes there going into the corner. But either way, brings out another yellow flag on the racetrack. So, working lap 360 of 400 currently. Will knock out another handful here under yellow flag. And I don't know, Ozzy, let me ask you this. When was the last time you have driven one of these 87s here in the sim?
I think it was around the time, it was actually at North Wilkesboro. I want to say it was actually at North Wilkesboro because, as I mentioned in the early part of the broadcast, we run a summer series in Finland, in Trellet.net series, one of the Finnish SimRacing leagues that's been going on for over 20 years now. And we had a 4-race summer season. I think we ran 1 race at Atlanta, 1 race at Charlotte. I think there was even the old bumpy Daytona thrown into the mix. And season finale at North Wilkesboro. That was the last time I ran these cars, and that's the race I won as well. So I have some good memories from this car, and I must say I personally really like driving these cars because you have to really wrestle them, and they don't handle. They don't handle at all, but it sort of feels right. Having said that, I do remember the races getting quite messy, and I do remember them being very easy to spin around as well.
These cars are super cool. I love them, especially here on iRacing. You put them on some of these really fast, ridiculous tracks like Talladega or Daytona, like you were mentioning with the bumps and whatnot. It's really cool to see. And not only that, but they also have the blowover physics with the big old aero flips and whatnot if you get turned around at 200 plus miles an hour. So, you know, not so hot in the real world, but in the virtual world, always kind of fun to do your best Rusty Wallace impression tumbling down through the grass. But thankfully, we are now back under racing. Green flag at North Wilkesboro. Ross Banfield leads the field of about 15 lead lap cars down into turn number 1. Once again, David Gargaro Jr. in that second place. And we've got the 10 of Trevor Wawrowski in his familiar third place position.
Now, are we talking about Rusty Wallace in Daytona or Rusty Wallace at Talladega?
Oh boy, you could take either one. Take your pick.
Yeah. He had a lot of those Rusty Wallace 20 feet in the air, spinning, crashing. Hopefully the 27 will not be doing that here in this race. I said that the 27 is currently in 17th position. That would be Jacob Madison, but we are watching the lead pack with Banfield, Gargaro Jr. and Wawrowski as well. And look at that. Kevin Hill in 4th place, still doing a reasonable job in the 52 car. He's been sort of lurking in there, what I feel like has been all night long, Joey.
Yeah, and he's trying to make a run of it. I always wondered if there's going to be anybody to go challenge Gargaro and Ross Banfield, and I thought maybe it would be the number 10 car a little bit earlier, but then Kevin Hill kind of inserted himself into the mix. Kevin Hill is running in that 4th place position, so, well, looks like we got another yellow flag. Is this the number 69? It looks like maybe Matt Gelder again having issues on the racetrack. I don't think that the 69 knows which way the track goes at this point.
No, I think he's trying to run it clockwise.
It was actually just a little bit of a harmless, loose condition spin coming up out of turn number 2. And unfortunately, this one did bring out the yellow flag. Watch this blue number 69. He just jumps on the gas a little bit early on corner exit. Car gets loose on him. He locks it down, but because there was other cars coming up, iRacing said, nope, yellow flag time.
Yep, and that sometimes just happens. It depends on whether the simulation thinks there is danger to other cars on track or not. That's where the word caution really comes from. It's such an overused word that maybe the etymology of the word is sometimes gone misunderstood, but caution means there is drivers take caution, there is a danger on track. And something interesting you brought up earlier on in this broadcast, or I think it was Joe who brought it up earlier in the broadcast. Back in the day, these guys used to race back to the flag. So it was raced back to the yellow, and that meant that during cautions, if there is a caution in, say, turn 2, they would race all the way to start-finish line, and that would determine their position on the upcoming queue of cars behind the safety car.
Yeah, a little bit different rules back then, and yeah, you're right, things have been changed around since then. And I think that depending on where you race here on iRacing, some of those leagues really try to recreate those rules as best as they can. Now, I know that we don't have a green-white checker here, which they didn't have back then either. So if we do have a yellow flag, it should end under yellow flag at the end of the race. But we'll have to see once we get there. The restart rules back then were always a little wacky when you compare them to how they're run now. But it's just how the races were. There's a different shape to each series, different shape to each era, and that's what was racing back then in 1987. It's kind of fun to have those rules, but at the same time, it can be a little bit confusing. It's nice to just kind of have the straightforward lucky dog process and the normal double file yellows out there.
It is. It's a callback to simpler times, back when you didn't have playoffs, back when you didn't have the chase, back when you just had a championship and the guy who had the most points by the end of the championship won it. And I'm sure there are many, many people who would like to go on a rant right now about the current state of NASCAR versus back in the good old days and how it was, but we won't go there. But it is fun to reminisce sometimes, and it's great that we have this chance to sort of bring back that nostalgia and introduce a whole new generation of people to the 80s style NASCAR with the 87s and the North Wilkesboro here in this simulation.
Not only North Wilkesboro, but Rockingham is pretty gosh dang cool in these cars as well, as the pace car dives off of the racetrack. Green flag in the air one more time. Barney waves it as excited as he can because guess what? He already pulls out the yellow flag, and I'm not sure what happened on this one. Maybe the 222 is involved again on this one.
Or the 658, because Wallet was a long way back for some reason. Homan as well, a long way back from rest of the field. So we'll see what happened here. Coming up to restart, it is Jason Wallet in the 658, taking the restart. Oh, and that's the 222, just slowing down for some reason in the middle of a straight line, and you don't want to do that because there's cars coming full tilt behind you who cannot see you.
And there's definitely another disqualification as well, and I'm even seeing it here.
Kukas.
Scott Kukas. I mean, you're right here in the 242, so he has hit the incident limit. He is officially gone from the race, but These cars, they use 3 pedals. They don't use the sequential gear shift like the new cars do, so you do have to shift them. If you get too aggressively on those shifts, sometimes they won't go into gear. It's called a misshift. And I think that's exactly what happened to the 222 out there as he was trying to go up a gear. It wouldn't go into gear for him, and from there, it halts his acceleration. Everybody ran into the back.
Yeah, and that is something which can happen if you try to take the shifting process too fast. And okay, I'm gonna actually explain this because, and I'm not judging anyone, mind you, I'm not judging anyone at all, but there might be some people in the audience who have never shifted a manual transmission car. I think automatics are a lot more common in America than they are here in Europe, especially in Finland with our older cars. But you essentially what you do when you shift a gear is when you're normally on full throttle at the restart, you let go of the throttle, you press the clutch pedal, which is the furthest most pedal on your left, you put the gear from one slot in the gear to another. It's a sort of a gear stick that you pull from one slot into another. And then you let go of the clutch and you push the throttle once again. And this all happens in a near 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second motion. It's all one smooth motion. But sometimes you don't find the gear, for example, or you make the motion too quick, or you let go of the clutch too quick, or you don't have enough clutch in. Whatever the case, the gear doesn't go in. The car goes back to neutral, the revs rise, but the power doesn't get transmitted to the rear wheels, which means your forward momentum is stuck at the levels that it would normally be instead of accelerating constantly.
And that is your vehicle dynamics lesson by Mr. Asian Puaka. And it looks like we do have the pace car lights out again here, Ozzy. It's going to be Ross Banfield still lined up with David Gargaro Jr. The last 2 restarts, I don't think we've even made it to the back straightaway, so maybe, we'll just have a little bit of some better luck here this time. Pace car is going to dip off, take that hard left down pit road. Barney waves the green flag. We are racing one more time as Ross Banfield getting the jump, but actually the 10 car sneaks up the inside of David Gargaro Jr. So now, all of a sudden, that 10 car is inserting himself into the mix for the race win because we're coming up 22 laps remaining here, even with yellow flags. You gotta go now.
Yeah, you gotta go now. This is the time when they start racing. Oh, and there's more accidents in the back, and there's a calamity on the front straight, and that's gonna bring the caution out. I think Kinchlow was involved, number 44. Dreiling might be involved in that one. Kenneth Reeder in the 41 definitely involved in that one. So let's have a look of that in the replay, Joey, and see exactly what happened.
Yeah, if you watch the 26, he gets loose. The 44 gets hooked into the wall, and then also Kenneth Reeder goes hard into the inside wall. You see the 27 get collected into it. So there was multiple cars that were involved in this late race yellow flag. And if anybody's out there watching us, if you could guess how many yellow flags we've had, how many do you think we've had? We'll tell you here in just a matter of a few minutes, but I'm curious if anybody out there can actually guess that number properly on that YouTube chat. So working lap 380 of 400. If you got a guess, put it in that YouTube chat. We'll tell you if you're right, and hopefully not going to have any more yellow flags. But judging how it's trending, Ozzy, I don't think we're done yet.
No, I don't think we're done either, unfortunately. And yeah, the winner can get some ice cream if they buy it from the store themselves.
Yeah, well, Joe left with all the ice cream. It's like he brought it back and then he took it with him. It was just a very bully type move, if you ask me. But I hope that he is enjoying himself and all of that ice cream as we still are chugging down this North Wilkesboro race. See if we can
More
make
than that, chugging down at this point. No. A little bit of humor always makes this. Makes the races fun. I mean, otherwise, all cautions and no green make us Yadal boy.
No, yeah. 18 laps left remaining here at North Wilkesboro. We will get through this thing, and we will crown a race winner at the end of it. And let's talk about maybe predictions for race win with how messy we've seen it, Ozzy. Do you think the bumpers are going to come out to claim that checkered flag?
Oh, that is very, very interesting. I mean, we've seen one controversial move for the lead already with Banfield taking Dallas Pataska out in the after about 150 laps of racing. That was something that's going to be talked about for a while. It seems that we've almost forgotten about that one with everything else that's been going on. But I could definitely see it, especially if somebody's trying to sort of claim that inside line a little bit too late and somebody else trying to go for that same space. I can definitely see a bit of rear quarter panel contact that will end this race, and it might even be for the lead. Having said that, the 42 and the 52 are in a great position here. Gargaro Jr. and Kevin Hill lined up behind each other on that outside lane, and also being teammates, so they may not race each other quite as hard, and they have at least one safe driver around them. Another pair of teammates you can see behind them. There's actually 3 teammates, I do believe. That's the 24 of Travis Henderson, the 22 of David Baker there as well, sporting a similar livery. So great to see those guys that are able to sort of back each other up at least a little bit.
And it looks like we're getting that green flag on the racetrack one more time as Ross Banfield leading the way. Gargaro Jr. looks like he will clear that number 10 car, so David Gargaro Jr. can hound the back of that 777 now, and just another yellow flag on the racetrack. This is a 4-car incident back here. I believe Jason Wallet was involved with this one. The 222 of Jason Homan involved. The 26 involved. Just another mess on the back straightaway. And honestly, this is going to put us back to green flag with less than 10 laps remaining.
Yes, it is. And we'll see a replay of what happened just now. Jason Wallet on the outside lane, as he's been all night long, just gonna hit that wall. And I think there was a bit of ghost contact with the 26. That 10 got the 222 involved in that one as well. So 2 teammates involved in that bit of an incident. The 744 as well, Michael Hogg, got spun around. I don't think anyone received race-ending damage, but definitely major damage, and you don't want to be sent to the back of the field at lap 387 either, with just 10 laps or so of green flag running left in this race. And we talked quite a bit about Jason Wallet and how he was able to keep his nose clean around the outside, was able to gain positions, was running close to a top 5 finish here, and now he's all the way back in 14th. And barring a major disaster, he is not gonna climb back up to even a top 10, let alone a top 5 here. Who is gonna be a happy camper about all this is Ross Banfield, however, in the 777, because Gargaro Jr., Wawrowski, Hill, etc., they haven't been able to mount a challenge on him. He's able to get a bit of a gap in the restart because he's able to dictate when exactly are they going. When he presses that throttle, the green flag flies, and he's able to get going. Now, he always gets about a couple of tenths heading into turns 1 and 2, into 3 and 4. He's safe for 1 or 2 laps at least, even if the driver behind has more pace. Because of that gap he is able to extend from the restart. And if it keeps going like this, well, nobody's gonna have a chance to pass him.
I think by the math,
don't do math.
I don't even want to say it. I hope that we stay green flag to the end. Technically, there is enough time for one more safety car and then another restart. So we'll just see if we get there or not. But I'm hoping that we don't. I think if we want to talk a little bit about some wild cards that could maybe shake things up, our top 4 cars, they all have 68 laps currently on their tires. Well, Travis Henderson in 5th, he's 20 laps fresher on his tires, so that's a little bit curious, but even more curious is David Baker in the number 22. So he is going to be lined up 6th on this restart, while his tires, they are half as new as everybody in front of him. So that 22 car might just have some speed just due to the freshness of the tires, but it's really been Ross Banfield, David Gargaro Jr. They've had the speed. They've been in control of the race. We're going to get another restart. Lap 390, 391 as we click it over, start, finish. Another restart for the Major Series. Ross Banfield leads the way up out of turn number 2. David Gargaro Jr. just can't hold that outside line. He's going to have to sneak down back into the inside. We got a car spinning, but we stay green flag racing, Ozzy.
Yep, that was Håkan Schött in the 101, and there's a disaster exiting turn number 4. And that's going to be a lot of cars. And I said Jason Wallace is not going to make it to the top 10. Well, he is. He's in 7th place because he was able to get clean through just about everybody. Jacob Madison as well has climbed up to 6th place. And that just goes to show you Kevin Hill, the 52 involved in that one. He was running in 4th place. And let's see just what happened here. This is exiting turn number 4. Onto the main straight, and already one car spinning out, and it's gonna be some more with the 22 and the 24, and the 24 just running into the rear quarter panel of the 52, and David Baker and Kevin Hill getting contact here and just spinning to the outside. Everybody else trying to avoid that incident with limited success, and we are back under yellow.
You know, when I was still a racing driver, how I was taught by one of my famous crew chiefs is that you're driving a box, okay? Where it's a glorified box that we're driving. Don't put your box into somebody else's box. Just keep the boxes separate and everything plays out nicely. But unfortunately, there's definitely a lot of cars out here that are just running over everybody, and it's just a little bit unfortunate to see. But we do have light at the end of the tunnel because we are officially on our last restart out here, Ozzy. So no matter what, this restart right here, we will claim a winner, whether it's green flag to the end or whether we get another yellow.
I'm just picturing that intercity train coming at me as you're speaking. Maybe one of those old-time steam trains, rather. You know, a tunnel full of smoke and that steam train coming at you, just like out of I can't remember what the name of the movie is. I think there is a song at least about the Mexico Express train or something like that. Whatever the case, yeah, they're getting ready for a restart. The race is gonna come to checkered flag soon, and I do hope, it might be a vain hope at this moment in time, but I do hope it's gonna come to the end under a green flag. Whatever the case, this is the Holly Farms 400, and it is round number 10 of the majors, specifically the Atlantic majors this season. Stefan Verweyen running very slow indeed on the inside line, but there's a victory at stake here. Whether it's going to be Banfield, Gargaro, Wawrowski, Henderson, or someone else claiming that victory, we'll see, but you don't have to wait for long, not in any case.
Well, we are down to 13 cars left on the lead lap. Ross Banfield's going to let the safety car drift out just a little bit. We are about to claim a winner, whether that's via yellow flag or checkered. The 777 is off to a nice restart as he's gotten all day long, but it's actually Wawrowski down the inside of David Gargaro Jr. The battle is on for the second place as Gargaro Jr. is going to try to close the door in 3. He is clear of him.
He is clear, and that means Banfield, Gargaro Jr., Wawrowski. What does Gargaro Jr. have left at this stake? Does he have anything left? We are watching my favorite camera angle of the day. You can just see from the rear how that 42 is trying his best, and we have the caution out.
Ross Banfield will be your race winner here at the Holly Farms 400 because we should not have a green-white checkered at all. Had another yellow flag to end this race, and honestly, it's only fitting that this race ends under yellow flag with what we've seen on the track so far. And this was Håkan Schött. He's coming up out of turn number 4 to the 222 of Joseph Homan, I believe, and not really sure, but just like I said, almost fitting that we end under yellow flag here.
Very fitting indeed, and that means Ross Banfield is gonna win this race. And I made a joking calculation early on in this race that at this rate it's gonna be 38.2 cautions. I believe our final number did extend that one.
I've lost track, honestly. I believe that we've had some people counting behind the scenes, and I think we are at 39 cautions for a 400 lap race. We are on lap 400 right now. This is the final lap, so riding on board with Ross Banfield in the 777 here. He is going to come out at turn number 4 behind the safety car. A little bit of an anticlimactic win, but he will take home the checkered flag. Your winner today, Ross Banfield.
Ross Banfield for the Udox Oliver team, and David Gargaro Jr. in second place. Then you got Trevor Wawrowski, Travis Henderson, and Kevin Hill rounding out your top 5. And we are gonna get to the final results here as well, and gonna confirm that for you. So, beautiful scenes from North Wilkesboro Speedway, a beautiful sunset. Sadly, perhaps not the most beautiful race I've seen, Joey, but here is your honorary order.
Yes, Ross Banfield does collect that checkered flag. Albeit, I think more laps under yellow flag than green flag today. David Gargaro Jr. is going to finish second. Really, those two were the class of the field when it came down to speed today. So I think the 2 fastest cars that were running the last half of the race did finish 1 and 2. Unfortunately, remember Dallas Pataska had that early incident, so I have to go back and review all of that with these 2 leaders. Trevor Wawrowski going to finish 3rd in that number 10 car. Travis Henderson in 4th. Kevin Hill finishing 5th, Tom Dreiling in 6th, Lynn Kinchlow 7th, Jason Willott in 8th, Jacob Madison in 9th, and Joseph Homan in 10th, Ozzy.
Yep, and on the next page we have Michael Hogg finishing 11th and being the only bronze driver that actually finished the race. So that is very well done, winning his own category as well. David Baker ending up 12th with Håkan Schött 13th, as well as the last driver on the lead lap. So well done for our Swede. Matt Gelder 14, 10 laps down. Carl Burke 20 laps down in 15th place, and it's going to be classified as retired from here on out with Kenneth Reeder, Scott Kukas, Stephen Verweyen, Patrick Kopp, and Stephen Grabowski as well out of this race, as are going to be all these next drivers: Rob Courtney, Robert Cowie, Wolf Dietrich Hotho, Mike Golightly, Kurt Van Aken, Dallas Pataska, Jeff Cardamone, and Nathan Medina as well out of the race. Now, it was quite a race, and we're gonna head off to a little bit of break and then come back for you with some fresh driver interviews, and I'm sure they'll all be happy campers.
Welcome back, everybody, to the North Wilkesboro racetrack. You have just seen 400 eventful laps covering just over 3 hours 15 minutes across the spectrum. And of course, we have to get our race winner here, Ross Banfield. Ross, congratulations on the win. How was it out there?
Oh, I'm just glad it's over. Let's just put it that way. That was, by the end, I couldn't even focus. I kept forgetting that I was the leader and had to catch the pace car. It was just so much cautions.
I can imagine. And yeah, it's... I think we had the tally to 190 caution laps over 39 cautions. It must have been, well, how should we put this? Straining.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a little more racing, but, a win's a win in the book. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to race Dallas like I wanted to with that mishaps during the caution. I didn't see if I damaged him or something. I couldn't figure out why he ended up dropping. Because it was definitely recoverable, and I was planning on letting him buy the next green flag one to give his spot back, because he had that race 100%.
Take me through that. It's one thing to view it from our perspective, but we just wanted to see what happened there. Was it just a tap? Was it just,
So I'm in VR, so I was looking down the road. I saw there was a car that was kind of sideways coming up, and then as I looked back, I saw Dallas was basically really slow, and then I hit my brakes, but by then it was too late with these cars. Even at 30 miles an hour, it's pretty easy to miss the pit box. So I just had no brakes. I mean, I was fully locked when I hit him, and it didn't seem that bad because I hit him pretty square. So he just bounced into the wall, and then I was trying to let him go, but he didn't go. So I just went past him, and the next thing you know, he kind of left the race.
Now, next time out, we will be heading to the British Grand Prix for the Silverstones at Silverstone with the W13 F1 cars. Are you looking forward to that one?
To be honest, I really like the last gen Mercedes over this one. For some reason, this one just doesn't agree with me over the slow speed turns, maybe because you have to run a lot more heave spring to deal with the ground effect. But I can definitely see why Mercedes was having issues last season with the car.
Well, it doesn't seem that they've gotten too much under the wraps for this season either. Hopefully next season they get back up on top. Yeah. Ross, pleasure talking to you as always. Is there any thanks you'd like to give?
Yeah, thanks for you guys for sticking around and always putting together a great broadcast. It's always fun to watch and hear you guys chat after the race. And also to the UDocs team, we put a lot together with the set. I think we had 6 different variations, so it really helped for this race, being able to cherry pick which one suited us best.
Perfect. Pleasure talking to you, Ross. I hope we see you again and Silver. So that was Ross Banfield, and up next will be David Gargaro Jr. Greg has caught up with him.
Yeah, I got David Gargaro Jr. with me, and David, at some points of the race, it looked like that win was just in your grasp, but just the flow of the race with all those cautions looked like it kind of spoilt what could have been a very interesting finish for you.
Yeah, I agree. I was definitely hoping for, some of the guys in the field to get their stuff together so we can do some green flag running. I think that's where our setup really shined, and it's almost like we didn't even get to use it at the end, but I was just trying to be careful throughout this race. I knew it's a small track, a lot of cars. When I was behind Dallas, at the beginning, I was like, all right, he's quick. I'm pretty quick, but he was, pulling from me a little bit. But we were pulling from everybody else, and it felt pretty good. And then we got deeper in the race, and Dallas was no longer there, and I really thought that this was my chance. And I gave it my shot, even when I had a pit and Ross didn't. I went back through the field, and it was back and forth, but like I said, I just wish we had some green flag at the end.
Yeah, talk me through, as I called it, the war of attrition. For those who have not done short track racing, who are watching the broadcast, and I've done short track racing myself, there is that moment where you cannot get into that rhythm. So talk me through that process, because there's a lot going on, not just with the idea that you're stopping the rhythm, but you've also got to get the mindset right with all those cautions.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. And even with oval track, short track, and in real life, it's the same way. All these cautions, they do a number on you. But you just got to get focused as quick as possible, and we're all facing the same stuff when we're out there. So Ross has to deal with that as well, and yeah, you just gotta. It's whoever kind of gets into their groove the quickest, and if you make the other person make a mistake, that's where you just gotta be there to capitalize on it.
Yeah, it was just a shame with the way it was going. There was no chance to capitalise because of what was happening on the field. We end the oval portion of the season now. This does help you in the point standing, of course, and we go to the final race of the season later on down the next month with Silverstone, with the Formula One cars. What are your thoughts going into that race?
Well, I'd be lying if I said I was looking forward to that, because I am just not a road course guy. So I got to really do my my practice on this one. Whereas these cars, this one fell right into my wheelhouse. This is my best finish this season. So, but the other guys on my team, they're very good road course racers, and I plan on learning a lot from them. And there's a good chance we'll pick up the Atlantic Team Championship next race too, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, that is going to be quite interesting to see when the championship gets decided. Going from a stock car to an open wheeler, it's a total different kettle of fish there. David, the floor is all yours for any shout-outs before we let you go this evening.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys for sticking around for quite the eventful race. You guys had 39 cautions. It's crazy. And then thank you to my team. You got Nate, Andrew, Ozzy, and Kevin from the Atlantic, and we all practice together, and we work good as a team, and we're looking forward to taking that team championship next weekend.
Well, David, thank you very much. Commiserations on the P2. Congratulations on the P2 as well. We look forward to seeing you next time by. That was David Gargaro Jr. finishing second in the race, Robert. Before I hand you over to Trevor Vavosky, as we were talking about Michael Hogg earlier, I've just got one word that if anyone watches us knows what we're going to say. Hashtag not a cult.
Not a cult. Exactly, it is not a cult. But that does leave us into Trevor Vavosky. Trevor, P3 for you on the cards from 12th position on the grid. I'd say you would want to, get your hands on P1, but how was it out there for you?
It was pretty good. Going in, we found something pretty decent in the warm up and took a little bit of a different direction. So the qualifying position was definitely out of place. Moved up pretty decently. It seemed like it was Dallas, Evolve, Ross, and then I think it was Grizzly cars pretty much from then on out. So we're in a decent spot, but just a tad off of those other guys. So I'm third is the right position considering what happened to Dallas.
Yeah, poor Dallas having issues. But at the very least, that you were a happy camper in third position. Was it difficult cutting through the field? Obviously, a lot of cautions, a lot of biding your time, trying to figure out what was going on. Take us through that.
I mean, that was probably the most fun I had during the race. Pacing really doesn't get my blood flowing. So when we had those cautions where all the lead cars had come in and a few cars had stayed out and it really jumbled everything up, that was probably when the racing was at least at its most fun, just because there was something going on. Otherwise, I mean, I'm sure you guys could probably tell towards the end there, I was let David and Ross have their race. Maybe they'll come together. That was kind of my only path to winning. And then after that, I'll just wait. I'll just wait in third place. So wasn't the most exciting race.
But at the very least, the third position was on the cards. Now, next time out, it'll be the W13s at Silverstone. Are you the kind of person that's going to be excited for the open wheels?
Last year, it actually went surprisingly well in the Formula One car, but I think that the surprisingly well part is probably more the norm than what the expectation is. I mean, the way things have gone, it seems like if you just keep cars in one piece and keep them straight, you'll end up with a decent finish. Maybe if we hit on something, a top 5 might be in the cards, but anything more than that would be insanely over expectation. So just hoping to get something solid. This race should do me pretty decent in the points with a few people not showing up and getting a P3, and hopefully can walk away with a top 5 in the championship again.
Well, at least you had a good day out of it. Is there any thanks you'd like to give?
Yeah, a big shout out to Ken Reeder. He was the one that really kind of threw stuff together for us last minute there with the setups. So big shout out to him, and then sponsors Majors Garage, TFR Labs. Yeah, that's it. Shout out to you guys for hanging in there. I know this is it's been a long weekend.
Yeah, it has been indeed. It has been indeed. Trevor, it's a pleasure always to talk to you, and hopefully see you again at the Silverstone racetrack.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was Trevor Faversky coming to us from third position on the tarmac. Now, while we're going to end it, I'm going to give a very big shout out to Majors Garage and to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, both of which brought us here to North Wilkesboro today. And to the team, Craig, Joey, Ozzy, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race is at Silverstone Grand Prix, the Majors Grand Prix, Sunday, November the 12th, 11 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out the rest of our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Up next for today is the Rolling Thunder at Atlanta at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. But until then, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Whoa.